Right, check 1 2, check 1 2. How's everybody doing? Let me get this out of the way and we'll get started. Yeah, also let me get my headphones in. Don't want to blast you guys with copyrighted music. Oh my god. One sec. How's everybody doing? Are we having a good day? A good Tuesday? Dude, I don't know what happened yesterday, but I just feel like I just needed a kind of a day to recuperate, so I don't know, yesterday just flew by. It was all blur. Tom C is good. Cool. I'm hanging in there. Yeah. It's just been a little busy, but I'm good. I'm hanging in there. Getting a bunch of things organized, getting things prepared to show people and all that good stuff. Yeah. Sorry, just getting a few things set up here off camera. One more sec. Also been messing around with Metahuman. I'm going to show you guys some stuff a little later. It's pretty awesome. What else? I'll leave that for the end. And got some new glasses on Mr. Reeves here. The man, the myth, the legend. Okay. Artsy Panda, what's up? Hello, hola. I like that name, Artsy Panda. It's cute. All right, so I'm gonna start this off with focusing on the sunglasses, the iconic Neo shades. Funny, I remember this style was like super popular. Like so much of the fashion in the Matrix that was generally acceptable publicly. You know what I mean? Like just most people won't go walking out in like super tight pleather, but a lot of like leather jackets, black leather jackets, of course trench coats, the glasses, the shades. I know a lot of people on the phone. The phone was a big thing. I got one of those phones, but I got it years after the Matrix came out, and it was only sold in Australia for a long time, for forever, I think, actually. And we didn't have the dual band for a while here because there's like two different types of frequencies they were using for cell phones. So I remember I just got it like a souvenir. I just got it like a movie prop, basically. But I always heard there was a kind that had a button that would eject the cover of the keypad where the mouthpiece is. It would shoot it out like spring loaded, like it was in the movie. But I never found one like that. I was told there was one like that, but I never found one I could buy. Every one I could ever buy, or the one that I had, I think it's in my parents' house somewhere in a box in their garage or something. But it was you had to manually slide it down, and clever it. So I was like, ah, lame. The movie had an extra feature in it that the movie version of the phone had an extra feature that we didn't have in in real life. So I remember I was kind of bummed about that, but who cares? It's just funny. So let's see here if I can group this with. So I bought these because I was like having trouble with the other ones, and I was like, screw it. I know there's a million models already made of these glasses, and these look pretty close. So I'm gonna take these and modify them because uh, I didn't like the struggle I was having, and there was no use in suffering through trying to model um, this shape very cleanly and quickly rather than just buy a cheap model that's already out there online, which is what we do in the profession all the time. So for those of you who may not know, who are students who think you have to make everything from scratch and every prop, no. People in companies and throughout anywhere, as long as it's, you're legally allowed to, as long as you are legally allowed to buy something and use it commercially, sky's the limit. So go out there and get whatever you need. There's been companies I worked for that they just give you a credit card and they're just like company card, and they're just like, you know, make sure it doesn't exceed this amount. If it does exceed this amount, then check with us first. But just buy whatever you need to start, as a base mesh, and then just go crazy, then modify it, because it's all about speed. They just care about getting things done as quickly as possible and as cheaply as possible. Usually, when I say cheap, I mean for them even like a few $100, maybe for something that's really good that'll help you along the way will be worth it. But usually anything like under the 3-digit range, they're just kind of like, find the best one that's affordable, just buy it. So, or request that they buy it for you or whatever. But yeah, so that's just common practice. And it makes your life easier. And in this case where I'm just doing this for personal satisfaction, again, I just want to make things move along quickly. Because I don't like things taking a long time. But I also will take as long as I need to make something look good. But in this case, it's like the glasses were just going to be a time sink, so I figured, screw it. So anyway, so that's why I'm checking here to see. I don't think they're UV'd. Oh, are they? Let me see. Oh, they are. Interesting. Nice. Okay, so that will let me separate things nicely. So, in ZBrush here, you can come to UV map and then just hit UV, and it'll like flatten everything out, let you see what the UVs are like very quickly, and you can put them back together. And so I'm going to use the UVs as a way to create polygroups, and then that will allow me to extrude these into his face so that I can 3D print lenses that will lock into the face on the very small little head that'll be 3D printed. It'll lock in perfectly and they'll be in the right place, but still be able to be separate pieces. So right now they're symmetrical. They're perfectly symmetrical, and his face and his posture and everything is not. So that's why they look off, because they are off in in proportion, in relevance to his face, but they're centered, I believe, with the world. Hello, crotch. There we go. Yeah, dog hair. So yeah, there we go. What I don't have perspective on, looks like they are almost centered. They're a little off. Interesting. So do this, do that. All right. Oh, there's two. Okay, weird. I think it does that when one model is centered and the other one's not. So okay, yeah, they probably are centered, I guess. But even here, they look a little off. Interesting. Weird. Hmm. Well, either way, they're going to be moved around a lot, but I figure this will be just easier if I have to do anything uniformly. Let's see here. Yeah, that looks correct, because it snaps to all the right vertices as I rotate around my cursor. Okay, cool. That works. Good enough. So there'll be challenges here, like the bridge, because it's so small, I may actually have to extrude that from his face, and then have these bits, like literally like where the lens starts, I'll cut the bridge and attach it to the lenses, and where the bridge is not on top of the lenses, I'll have to like make a clean cut and extrude that into his nasal bone. So, and these bits aren't accurate, I don't believe. It's hard to tell, but I don't believe they're screen accurate. So I wonder if I can... delete them. Okay, first we're going to polygroup by UV map. So auto group with UVs, or interesting, because remember it had like a frame around the it had a frame around the lenses. Let's see here. Which other ways can I do this? Group by normals. Yeah, usually group by normals is a great way to separate things according to their faces and how they arranged. So this looks like, just by judging by the two different colors here, I already know that this is probably not connected through this purple piece. Yeah, so I'll just have to like connect these like a bridge. UVs are irrelevant in this case because I'm not planning to really, even if in this case too, I mean, it would be basically like 2 or 3 materials, maybe 4, really, if I wanted to get picky and select over 5, but because like the screws, the pads on the nasal pads, the temple pieces, and then the extra pieces that curve around the ear, those could all be like different materials, but anyway, it's not going to be rendered like that, so that's irrelevant. It's just only a matter of having a model that will work to 3D print. So I'm going to delete those pieces. Let me double check though before I do that, because I'm pretty sure they were just straight. I don't even know what they're called. Is those temples? I guess I just think of them as temple like pieces. I don't know what else to call them. I think that's what they're called. But I haven't really focused on never really looked up like what exactly everything on glasses are called. Even though I've worn glasses like my whole life. 1 sec here. Let's see. Just looking at some of the stills I have from the movie. It does look like there's a thicker piece before it gets thinner, but it's like thick all the way from the beginning of the glasses to a point, and then it gets thinner. Like I'm looking at this. This is very grainy. It's a grainy photo. There's got to be a better. Yeah, okay, so yeah, there is like a thicker, kind of stronger piece, and then it gets really thin right there. Interesting. Oops. And this will be handy for like doing a little reforming here of the lenses. It's interesting where they attach too. So the curve, the peak, or the more pointed ovoid part is below where they attach, where a lot of times I think they would attach it right at the furthest point of the ovoid shape. So they would attach it, usually I feel like a lot of models attach it right here at the apex of that curve. Instead of here, they're actually above that point. So they're before it reaches the apex of the curvature. Interesting. These are all the little things you notice, like that the costume designers, because these were all custom made for the movie, from what I understand. So these weren't like off the shelf glasses that they just, were like, let's try these different ones on, and oh, that one looks good. This was something that was engineered and just made for the film. And little things like that are just very like distinctive. It's a subtle detail you would never think to look for unless you're really looking for it. But it's interesting because it's not like it's not the common thing. And so these are actually close, but not exactly the same shape, because the curvature should be lower, like here, and a little bit more circular than oval, slightly. Close, but yeah, like the attachment, I feel like these lenses should be rotated down slightly and widened vertically, and then the attachment should be a little higher. So I'll see what I can do. See how bananas detailed I want to get with it, but maybe I'll just go ahead and do that. And my dog is running around with a cone on his head because so if you're knocking or shaking, that's him bumping into things with the cone on his head, the cone of shame. Because I cleaned his ears today because he needed some cleaning. Corgis are really clean dogs in general. He's pretty clean too, but I just noticed he needed a little bit of TLC. So cleaned his ears, and now he's like trying to scratch a little too much. So I'm trying to let his body like settle and calm, and then I'll take off the cone. But now he's like kind of bumping into corners around the apartment and like clunk, you know. He's not used to wearing the cone because he's only worn it a few times in the past when he had like hot spots or some other issues. Anyway, sorry. I guess probably don't care about my dog that much. Alright, so delete hidden. And we'll just bridge these things. And the way they actually open up like that here, I'm going to delete those parts too. So that we have a clean, you know, tube when there's no widening of the opening of the mouth, these open faces. Just keep it nice and tidy. Alright, delete hidden. And we'll just do a simple... So a lot of people, I find, a lot of even professionals, I find, still don't know how much you can do with the ZModeler brush in ZBrush, or just don't care to investigate because they just want to go back into Maya because they're comfortable there. But I'm like, well, dude, why are you going to be exporting or re-importing or even go zine and back and forth? Just stay in ZBrush if you can do it in ZBrush. Like, why go somewhere else? It just takes more time and it's annoying. So this is a great tool. I love using the ZModeler tool brush. So ZModeler brush. Did I say modeler tool brush? Whatever. You know what I mean. So you hover over an edge, hold space, and then you want to say, what do you want to do? Well, we want to bridge. We actually want to close. We want to close these two, but we don't want to close it like flat. We want to bridge them. So you say bridge, and you say, okay, what that's the action here, right? And then what do we want to? What's the target? Or what's the target of the action? It's bridging two holes, right? So we say two holes, spline is fine, interactive curve is fine, because then you can add more edge loops or reduce them by clicking it, holding it, and then sliding up and down or in any direction. So I'll show you here. So once that's selected, you select the first hole, and symmetry may not work for this, but we'll see what happens. Oops. Okay, so what did I do that on? Did that on selected mask on something. Whatever. Okay, I think we're good. So bridge two holes. Click first hole, it says. So tap that, and then you tap over here, and boom. But now I have all these edge loops. Let's say we don't want that many edge loops. So we do undo, do the same thing again, tap, and then second tap, tap and hold. Now if I go up like this, I'm dragging my cursor, I'm adding a lot of edge loops. If I'm going back down, I'm reducing them, and then after a certain threshold of where I tapped, it starts to do the same thing inverted. It's just my action is crossing an invisible threshold, and now it's doing the same action just after I inverted past that line. So it's like either way, it's like a scale that's amplifying uniformly. So after you reach a certain point of where you tapped, it becomes you're moving the opposite direction, but it's the same action being applied again with the same amplitude. So I don't even need one there, but that's fine. So boom. And yeah, it did work in symmetry beautifully. Nice. Okay. So there we go. So that fixes that port. Now, the way that they looked here, it's actually more like, it seems a bit more almost like if you were to look at a cross section of this piece right here coming off of the sides of the shades, it kind of looks like a really flat rectangle. It almost looks kind of squarish just by the highlights and just by the way it looks. Like if you were to chop it, it seems like it'd be like a very flat square or rectangle kind of. If you were to like go through it, long ways. So I think I might make that slight adjustment to these. Again, they're going to be so small, people won't really notice, but I still just like going through the painstaking, super nerdy level of detail because that's me and I'm crazy. And because I have the time to do it. There's no deadline here for this, so do what I want. Symmetry of this. You don't really need these things because you don't see them in the film version. So we don't need all these little screws and nuts and bolts. So I'm just holding Control Shift and hiding all this stuff. Then I'm going to delete hidden. There might be something else in there that I don't see yet, but I'll take care of it in uno minuto. Come over here and get rid of these guys. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask in the chat. Sorry, I haven't looked at it in a minute. I'll check in a sec. If anybody has any questions. All right, so I think I got those, but I'll check inside there in a minute too. I think I can get rid of those. I'm not sure if there's a good shot. I mean, maybe there's little screws there. I don't know. They look just like little bumps. They just look like they're like really engineered, so they have pegs or something that go through, and then maybe they like threaded the other side, and then just like you screw only on the inside, because the outside just has such a clean, sleek, minimalistic look. I don't see like any hardware really poking out at all on the outside. Very aerodynamic kind of glasses. And I guess the final shot in the film, so this one, that's a really good shot of the glasses, actually. It's as close as we could get. Yeah, again, the attachments just look really clean. You don't see like bolt screws or even like the ends of screws or anything. It's just they go into the lenses. You don't see. It kept everything super minimal. Looks like there's 2 points of attachment here though, which is interesting. Like almost like a little kind of forking happening right there. So like 1 point, second point. So it's this little like attachment on both sides. 2 little points. Interesting. Interesting. So, okay. So yeah, these are getting the axe as well. And since this is going to be 3D printed, I'll just push these guys. I'll just make a little extra extrusion and just sort of stick them in there. Actually, they'll probably be deleted because I don't think none of this would print really because it's so thin and so fine. Again, well, some of this would have to be like extruded out of the face, so it'll be like a facial detail, but it'll all, blend together perfectly once the lenses are attached. But yeah, I'm just gonna get rid of this stuff because it's superfluous in this case. Ready? Delete hidden again. Yeah, and I could just remake these because they have like holes and gaps and funky stuff, and then I can just push these into the lenses, but I'll have to see about that. Maybe I'll put them in, attach them to his nasal bone and let them be parts that are waiting to receive the other pieces. So see how that goes. But all right, so at least we're getting that all cleaned up. So I wanted to separate them by normals by polygrip like that so that I can take this side, the inner face of the lenses, since they're double-sided, and then I'm going to extrude those into the face. So then I'll use the face as a negative and remove any extra material that's passing through the face using live boolean, and then that'll create a perfect marrying of the two. So then I can actually just sort of lock those into the face over the eyes. And like I was thinking, I might just do a cylinder extrusion. So I may actually do a couple different booleans here, operations, where I'll do a cylindrical extrusion from the lenses that go through the pupils of the eyes. So they're actual, it makes sense that they'll be like darker, deeper holes, because pupils are holes, of course, in the eye. And the fact that there's no real lens there I think will be irrelevant in this case because it'll be so small. Hopefully a print. That's the other thing. It's like these are going to be so small. Those little pegs might actually break off or not print. We'll see. It depends how I arrange that. Because obviously, again, you want it to be a smooth surface, so you don't want any supports printing to the front of the lens. Of course, you'd want to do like a round, as I've done other like eyeball lenses. Like I created this Indoraptor for Colin Trevorrow and Jay Bayona and my buddy Glenn McIntosh for Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. Fallen Kingdom. And it was a private maquette that they had designed for them for like commemorating the film's success. So it's just only 3 of them have it, and a producer, I think. And so I created real lenses, like clear eyeballs. And what I did was I created the outside of it as a lens that was, just perfectly spherical with a bulge for the cornea, and on the inside, the inverse piece, and then I created like 2 little pegs that shot outward, so like 2 little square nodules, so to speak, that shot out from the sides of the eye. So if you were thinking of your eyeball was facing outward, it was perfectly smooth. Right after the eyelid covers this portion of the eyeball, on either side of the extremes of the eye on the endoraptor, small square pegs shot out, but that were at depth. So the eyeball curved on both sides, and then once you reach a certain point where you need some thickness there for the skin to cover, right? You couldn't be too thin because then it would just break, it would snap, it'd be too delicate. So you leave some thickness there, so the eyeball curves like this if you're looking like top down the eyeball, and then it creates like I created like little keys basically. So then you could just like lock it into the inside, going in through the back of the head, inserting it in there, so it would match, flush beautifully, but be different material, so you wouldn't have just a gray solid eyeball that you paint, but instead I created an iris on the inside of the eyeball. So then the painter was this phenomenal painter who works over at Pinewood Studios, works on Star Wars stuff, there in England, and so he did all the iris work on the inside, because I put all this detail in there of like all the striations and the little muscle, it's just little tiny fashion, all the little detail of the iris surrounding the pupil. And so he went in there and just painted all those fine, beautiful details. And really, so then when you look at it, it really has the look of a real eye, so your iris is inside, over in front, behind a clear lens. It worked out great. It was awesome. So anyway, with that all said, I forget how I got into that whole thing. Pegs, yeah, so keys. So I'm thinking of doing something similar to that, but this head is not going to be, because that head was big. It was like a big maquette bust, like a big head. This is going to be very small, 1/6 scale. So the head's going to be about yay high. If any of you guys have seen like Hot Toys, the brand of collectible statue / action figures, there's something in the middle. Incredible sculptures of faces, like the likeness and the artwork that goes into the design and the engineering. I mean, they've got standard bodies and joints, I guess, that they share amongst a lot of the different characters that they make, the brands that they use, or licenses they have. But the head sculpts, the facial likenesses are amazing. They're so well done. They look so, I mean, I have really not ever seen a bad one that I can think of. All the ones that are supposed to look like actors or characters, they are just spot on, like really good. As good as can be, especially for a mass-produced product. Like they're pretty high end, pretty nice. So anyway, that being said, though, the one thing I noticed they got wrong with the Hot Toys version of Neo is the glasses. They're just too thick. Everything's like, they look like goggles. So it looks like a different character when you put the glasses on there. These thick, chunky bands, because it's such a delicate thing. So I'm guessing that my method might be more successful, in at least being more accurate, because I'll keep the details, like I said, fused to the head, like the temples and the bridge. And so there'll be like details popping out of the head instead of being added to it externally. So that'll allow me to keep them very fine and thin, and then the lenses will be locked in. So anyway, sorry, I'm just sort of processing things out loud as well. So yeah. So I'm still trying to figure out what we're going to do here, but we're going to do it together. So you're going to see it here happen. We'll do it live. So anyway, sorry, what is the chat saying here? I haven't checked in a minute. Artsy Panda is a digital sculptor and modeler too. Very cool. All right, welcome. I hope I'm not too boring for you, or I don't get into too many tirades about how crappy movies are nowadays. YouTube suggested me to watch a video of the making of the first Matrix. 15 minutes later, I see the stream. Oh, that's awesome, Ted. Sorry for the rant here. Just talking about, not rant, but talking about processes. Sorry, this is just for fellow ZBrush nerds, I guess. But anyway, it's cool that you got recommended this. That's awesome. So yeah, we're gonna be moving along here soon with Mr. Reeves, and his likeness. Where are the eyeballs? I turned those off. There we go. He's missing his teeth. I gotta fix the gums in there too, I think. There's a couple things. So for those of you who are new, who've never seen this before, or who are just kind of jumping in, I'm making, obviously, this. I'm using this shot to match his expression. It's not completely there yet, I know. Like, I think I still gotta adjust his nose again, and little areas and creases in the mouth. But I started off with a sculpture I had started like a year or two or 3 years ago, like a while ago. I left it and came back to it. It was close, but there were some things that were off, and so luckily we had the game Cyberpunk come out, and someone ripped the model of Mr. Reeves from the game, and I know for that game they scanned him, so they did a 3D scan or photogrammetry, whatever. But either way, it became a 3D scan, point cloud, becomes an actual like 3D mesh. They retopologize it, so it's smoother. It's not like it doesn't have all the sculpted detail. It's got maps that do that for them, general normal maps and texture maps. But anyway, still, the model is pretty useful. The scan gave good proportions. So I used the scan, and then I used, I could have used ZWrap, but I didn't at the time because I wanted to do modifications to it, and I wanted more hands-on, so I did ZProject brush, which is the project brush. The ZProject brush? What is it called? Yeah, ZProject, right here, this guy. So anyway, match the face, but now the mouth is open, so things look a little off. And of course, the expression is a pretty intense expression. It's not a very neutral one, which is what the scan looks like, of course, because that's what they need to start with, is a very blank, neutral expression. And then they might have them do like, exaggerated expressions to open the mouth and get all the blend shapes they can from that, so then they can create a whole expression library so that the person can voice act and the, model will deform properly according to their own unique facial structure. So anyway, this is that scan game model that has all the, proportions correctly of his face. So that's what I used. And then here we are with the overlay. So then if I colorize, so the bluish aqua color here is the scan, and then this one that's more like aqua green is my adjusted model. And so I'm just going to fix the nose here quick because it's bugging me. Turn off dynamic and turn off the scan. Actually, I'm going to use that again really quick. So that's how we got to this point. So it's pretty accurate on that basis. And that's what we do for a lot of films and commercials and whatnot. Like I recently worked on Mr. Samuel Jackson for a Verizon commercial and Legacy Effects, formerly Stan Winston Studio. So for those of you who may not know, Stan Winston Studio, our beloved leader of that group, passed away, I think back in 2008. So Stan Winston Studio became dissolved a little after that for a while, and then they reformed as Legacy Effects, and of course carrying on the legacy of Stan Winston, hence the name. And John Rosengrant and Shane Mahan and a bunch of other people are like two or three others are the kind of the refounders, the co-founders of this new resurrected group of visual effects, special effects artists. And I met John a while back and got a tour of the place. It's awesome. If they ever work on Jurassic Park stuff again, I'm gonna have to like knock on the door and be like, hey guys, I need in. But anyway, just great crew of people. And so they sent the company I was working with a scan of Mr. Samuel Jackson. So I was lucky to be working on the project, and they handed over the scan, completely not animatable, but great reference, and a lot like this, where then I would recreate a face that had great topology, so it can animate and express and emote very well, and then reform it to match the scan and create something that's very ready to be animated and mocapped, because he already did all the motion capture for the commercial he did. So if you go to my site, for those who may not know, you can check out the commercial, and my site is lion-arts.com. Arts, not art, or there we go, arts. And you can see it's one of the first things on the portfolio. But yeah, so the same process. We do this for and I've done this with a bunch of other stuff. But it's just always usually the same process. Like if we have a scan of an actor, we're always going to use the scan because obviously it's the real face. It'll be the most accurate than trying to look at photos and match, and trying to do find a profile, find the front view and all that. So using a scan is standard. It's the name of the game. But then, making expressions, if they don't have a library of expressions from that scan, you've still got your starting point, but then if it's got to be an expression, then you've got to start still doing your research and seeing how the face deforms, how certain things are asymmetrical, because no one's face is symmetrical. Everyone's face is asymmetrical unless you're like a freak of nature, and then in which case you're probably extremely attractive because symmetry often is found to be attractive. But that's the very general term and a very general definition, because there's so many of us are asymmetrical, and yet so many people out there are extremely attractive. So with asymmetrical faces, but general symmetry, of course, and flow of the proportions are what make a face attractive or not. But attractiveness aside, just getting a likeness right is often starting with a scan and then moving forward from there to create the expression or the look or whatever, that you've got to take it further from there. So anyway, that's how we got to this point. And I know I'm going to get back to the glasses in a second for those who are like, why isn't he doing the glasses again? But so just little things I was looking at here when I was looking at the matchup here. So let me turn off the scan. This up again. Turn down opacity. We'll zoom in a little bit. Oops. So it looks blurry because I'm zooming in improperly in a sense. I'm sort of magnifying the whole canvas, because that's the only way to bring up the image with it, unless I did like the other methodology, but I forget how to do it. I got to check how to do that again. Where you have the image on a box and it kind of will scale with everything to a degree, but this is okay. So I'm just making some quick corrections here to like the hair, the face, just little things I know I can do quickly. But yeah, so for anyone who's never seen this process before, it's a lot of work. Don't take any of this as it's a simple or fast process. I only work on this pretty much on stream so far. I really haven't worked on this off of the stream, and I'm often getting to talks with people or go off in discussions, and will not be always working hardcore, like super focused on this 100%. So that means that it's been a slower process than it normally would, because if I was being paid to do this, of course, and I was being, it was a job, 8 hours a day, you know what I mean, or whatever, close to that, this would be a lot further along by now and a lot faster and looking better even. Only because I would be under the gun, I have to get it done. But since we can always have conversation and might get distracted with something else, this is just sort of a more relaxed way of having this flow, which is always more fun. And also I can put in more time into this too than I even could onto a film asset. And that's something that people take for granted too. It's like sometimes visual effects don't look that great because unfortunately the studios, and the timeline, the deadline's not realistic for the amount of work that needs to be done. So human beings can only push themselves so far before they just have to, they need sleep, or they have to like take a break before they lose their mind. And so you can only push yourself and the tools and everything so far with a certain amount of time before you just have to say, well, it's not done, but it's abandoned at this point, and it has to go out the door. It has to be rendered and thrown into the film. So always have a little bit of grace and mercy when you're critiquing a film's effects if they don't look perfect. A lot of times, not always, but a lot of times, it can be from just deadline, just not being not enough. And then sometimes they just didn't have the best artists working on certain things, or they hired a studio that cut some corners. Like you'll find some visual effects that look really weird. Often will be, and you're not sure why. It can be sometimes the lighting, of course, a lot of different reasons. But one thing I've noticed that's a consistent like faux pas that certain cheaper, lower budget films will do is they'll have visual effects that you can tell are computer generated because of the frame rate or the way they move. Either they're too smooth or they're moving extremely fast, but they're so clear in every frame. And that's because they don't have motion blur. Motion blur is very like costly budget-wise, not money so much as but render time and computing power to smear all these pixels that so you're moving the blur rate is accurate to 23.9 frames a second or 24 frames a second, and if you don't have any of that blurring, it's just going to be this perfectly clear object moving, and it'll have this almost like kind of stuttering effect to it because there's no blur. So like blur was something that really was a huge improvement in visual effects and CG effects that ILM really pioneered a lot. And that's why Jurassic Park's dinosaurs and a lot of those effects from around that era still hold up today, is because they paid so much attention to many specific details and like different motions. The motion blur isn't just smearing, from here to there. It's not tweening, you know what I mean? Where you have like a straight line from here to there and it's like, you just smear that way. If it's doing an arch, you're going to have a circular motion blur, right? If a car's curving around a corner, it's going to have that kind of motion blur effect where it's going to be a slight spherical or circular shape to it. So whatever motion something's making, there's going to be a trail that's sort of in that motion, that's in that shape. And those are very specific little details that you wouldn't consciously think of a lot of times as an audience member, but as artists, we know that that's the defining sort of, those are the elements that really are the little things that you were really behind the scenes, but your eye, your brain knows instinctively, intuitively from just reality and from watching conditioned from watching real footage so much. Your brain is like, something's off with that. I don't know what. But often motion blur or the lack thereof, or improper motion blur even, can be what throws your mind off, and you're like, something's wrong. And that's one of the things that it can be. And I've seen a lot in lower budget films especially. But it's understandable because it costs so much. It's like it takes so much time to process all those extra bits, those elements, right, to tell a render engine, to calculate all that. It just takes a lot of time, which is why forever they used to have render farms, and they still do. But we're moving now to real time, where we're going to be able to have just a couple GPUs or a couple computers or one computer can output something that looks final, amazing, and it was one computer, not a room full of parts of computers, essentially just graphics cards crunching through, tons of other data, or CPUs too. So we're really moving, just as the calculator used to take up a whole room when the first computers were doing it. Now we have a calculator. It could be I'm sure you could hold a calculator in something as small as like an SD card now, or even smaller. But now, the computer power we have to do calculation is ridiculous. Like, there's more transistors, creates denser transistors. Smaller transistors make denser CPUs become more powerful. And so all that, of course, allows us to do what we do now with such ease. And we take for granted just how much computing power has been required to do everything that we do now. Even something like ZBrush is like a miracle compared to, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago. Couldn't get anything even similar to this. This is like a lot of artists' wet dream from back in the day. I'm sure guys at ILM would have murdered for something like this back then. So anyway, sorry, I'm just trying to get this vein right, and then I'll move back on to the shades, because I noticed it was kind of off. This one that goes like all the way up his forehead. A little smooth. That's looking better. All right. Actual. So anyway, hopefully that was informative. Hopefully that was not just a boring techno babble, but helped make some sense for somebody and a little educational. Sorry, let me get back to the chat for a sec. Alexander Pol, I'm sorry, I don't speak Russian. But I understand the question marks. You're asking a question. Afternoon. Tara, New Zealand, NZ. Could be a rivet. Rivet referring to the lens. Yeah, the glasses. Thanks. Any tips for those in school to be modelers and sculptors and want to get into the field? Any tips? I mean, that's such a general question, but work hard, work smart, create great artwork, create artwork that you love, and this is the thing. When you're going into the field, you're going to be creating a product, and or delivering a service, both usually. So you have to understand that your portfolio, you are a product in a sense too. You are your brand, right? So you have to portray yourself in the way that you would want people to perceive your work and or create the work that you would want them to hire you to do. Because if you can just show like general competence in 3D modeling or sculpting, but you don't show a specific lean or an interest or style They're just gonna, if you're competent and you're good, but you're like, very junior, very, like green, they're gonna hire you to do just the grunt work, the shit work, or things that, I mean, which all of us had to do at some point in general in life, whether it's, it's how you present yourself though. How do you, your first impression, right? What do you present to the world? What are you presenting to the art directors, to the people who are gonna hire you, as what you're capable of, and also what you like to do. Because if you like, because it's like, it's all synergistic. Like if you love something that you're working on, it'll show, because hopefully you'll put in a lot of time and effort, and it's not just a big chunk of time, but it's just doing good work, right? So whether that takes a long time or a short time, usually it takes a long time no matter what. But even when you get better at something, you're still going to be pushing yourself. Hopefully you should always be pushing yourself further to get better and better and better. And not to really compete necessarily with anyone directly, but just to understand that your competition in the world is the people working in the world already, right? The people who are established, the people who are good at what they do, and who are known, who have good connections. Sometimes someone who isn't the best at the job will get the job because of the connections. So that's the other thing a lot of students need to know early on is you can be great at your artwork, but if you're really weird socially, that's not going to help you. You still might get a job, no problem, but if you're great with people, you're good with networking, you're good with conversation, you can talk about other things other than just what you're interested in. Those are always the 3 points I tell people: is be excellent at what you do, because that's like the bare minimum barrier to entry for any job anywhere. Is be excellent at what you do. So whatever you're being hired for or want to be hired for, be great at it. So just always keep getting better and better. But don't beat yourself up when you fail, or when you don't get the job, or you don't make the piece of artwork that just doesn't look right. Like, don't beat yourself up. Just understand that's all part of the process. Like, all of us have to go through it. All of us go through the valley of the suck, right? We all go through the hardship of making something look great, and it will always look kind of shitty and weird before you get there. That's just part of the process. It's like working out. You're not going to be Arnold Schwarzenegger when you walk into the gym. You will become someone like him, but your own version, once you start putting in the work. You start repetition after repetition and consistency. Like, it's one thing to do a hard, to like push a lot of weight one time. That's great. But the way you get stronger and more defined and bigger is by putting in that work, putting in consistent effort, good work, good consistency, time and time again, and not overdoing it, not killing yourself, not hurting yourself, where then you have to take time to recover, or may never recover, depending on your, the metaphor, depending on the injury, or depending on the hardship that you put yourself through, right? So you got to be smart about it. But hard work, there's, like Schwarzenegger says, like, there is no shortcut to hard work, though. You still got to work hard. Like, that's just the beginning of it. And then once you get past a certain point, then I think you can actually work smarter and not harder. But when you combine those two, you're working hard and you're working intelligently, you're going to see that come back in dividends. You're going to see, like, it'll come back to you tenfold with how people respond to your work. So be great at what you do, be good with people, be able to have conversations, be confident, look people in the eye, give a firm handshake. If you meet people, like, we're finally getting back to normality, I guess, a little bit in the world. When you make contact with people, be assertive, be confident. And true confidence, it's hard to fake, I mean, good actors might be able to do it. But in general, people can detect BS pretty easily. People have a very instinctive eye for that, or mind for that. So try to become confident if you're not confident in who you are and how you present yourself, because that's always more attractive and just more likable. But confidence is not arrogance, so don't confuse the two, because there's a lot of people who think being confident is being cocky, or being arrogant, being condescending, or don't be any of those things, because nobody likes that. That's just being an asshole. So be confident, be assertive, be positive. Like, try to find something to be happy about in life. I know it's been hard lately. It's been hard for a lot of people, but being happy, being a positive person, being a person that's fun to be around, that can laugh at themselves as well, can take a joke and can put out jokes. But it's not about telling jokes, of course, but I just mean, but be a positive, happy person. Like, that goes a long way as well. It makes you likable. It makes you more likable, or at least tolerable. People want to be around people who they enjoy being around, right? That's what I think. Likability, it's a huge thing. And it's something that has to come naturally, though. You can't fake it, right? You can't try to make yourself more likable, or try to, like, when you're with people in real time, it'll just come off as really cringy and fake and embarrassing. So work on your confidence if you're not a confident person. Work on your assertion, and that can even be simply, it's just practice by walking outside and smiling at people when you walk past them. Say hello, which I know is hard if you're wearing a mask, but if you are outdoors, you shouldn't be wearing a mask in the first place. You should be in sunlight, breathing fresh air, and not like like next to somebody, right? Just say hi, how you doing, hello, wave, smile. Simple things. Start with simple things, right? If you're a little agoraphobic, if you're a little afraid of people, if you're like, not someone who's really sociable or confident, start with little things. But learn to get comfortable in your own skin, right? Learn to accept where you are. It doesn't mean to be complacent, right? It doesn't mean you should just settle. Like if you're someone who wants to get in shape, you shouldn't be just like, well, I'm fat and I'm just gonna stay this way, and they gotta accept it. I gotta learn to accept. No, you can get better, but like, you gotta put the effort in, right? You gotta understand it's a process. It's gonna take some time. You gotta work out. You gotta eat well. You gotta do all these things. Take the appropriate steps, right? So same thing with building confidence. It's gonna take time. You have to give yourself some grace. Give yourself some forgiveness, right? Learn to forgive yourself. Learn to love yourself a bit. But loving yourself not to the point of detriment, right? Because if you love yourself enough to just keep eating Twinkies, you're going to die of diabetes, right? You're going to kill yourself with love. That's not the right path, right? So the same metaphor goes for everything else in art. You should be critical of your work enough to know that it's not better than it when it's not good yet, if it's not good, but not so much to say like, oh, it's not good and now I'm depressed. Like, don't go there, right? Make sure to get enough sleep. Make sure to get enough B12. That's a big thing for depression, apparently. And get some sunlight, get vitamin D, like get outside, get active, get those endorphins going, do something, even if it's just a jog or push-ups or jumping jacks or jump rope, something. Go play a basketball game with friends, pick up some tennis, I don't know. Something active, right? Like get away from the computer for a while, just do something else where maybe it's active and social, work on your confidence. Anyway, confidence is a big thing, right? Being assertive, being positive, being likable. And then the third, so that's all like, point one, be great at what you do. Point two, be good with people. Point three is always just luck. But I mean, luck favors the prepared. That's the phrase, right? Always be prepared. So to be prepared means if you got those first two down, if you have great work to show, you have a nice portfolio with simple, like either ArtStation or a website or even an Instagram account that just shows your work very concisely, your best work only. Doesn't mean more is not always great, more is not always better. It's just more sometimes. Like cull your portfolio, make sure that it's nice and neat and it's just your best work. I need to cull my portfolio. I think I have way too much stuff in there now. I need to like whittle it down a bit, but I mean, at least it's all good work, I think. Then it's just luck, and luck comes from just being prepared. So if you're prepared, you have all those 2 points ready to go, you have your portfolio ready to go, you're good with people, and you happen to walk in the elevator, and someone's an art director, and they ask what you do, and you tell them, and they take an interest, and they're like, do you have any work you can show me? Boom, there's the opportunity. There's your elevator pitch moment, right? And then all you got to do is deliver, smile, be charming, be friendly. And before you know it, they might be like, give me your card. Have a card, or have something that has your information for them to get a hold of you on very easily. Exchange like contact info. Make sure to get their info too, whether it's Instagram or a card or a number, an email, something. And then hopefully you will get a job that way. You get an entry point, right? Applying online, like giving applications, that can work. But I've found so much of the time, the jobs I've gotten, the gigs I've gotten, sorry, I'm not sculpting, I know. The work I've gotten comes from connections, comes from friends, comes from people that I know and that I like and that like me. And they say, hey, how you doing? Do you need some work? We have overflow here. Or, hey, we're catching up, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, what's new? Oh, we got an open position for a modeler. We really need someone like you. We need someone who likes animals, or we need someone who's good at likenesses, or we need someone who, whatever, whatever they like about what I do. And if I'm not busy, if I'm looking for work and I say, yeah, I need something, then just boom. Then it's just like, oh yeah, give so-and-so your information, send them your resume or your reel or your site or whatever. And just do the typical song and dance thing, but it's all kind of like, it's almost superfluous. It's almost like extra already because they know they want to hire you and you're coming recommended by somebody they respect. And so it usually just all works out. So it's like, give them whatever they need. It's just like paperwork and formalities. And then, boom, you're hired and you're off to the races and you're all doing good work together. So, it kind of gets a little bit easier. It's not always smooth sailing when you make it up to a professional rank and you're working on big projects, because a lot of times it'll be gigs. So you get hired for a gig and then you get let go after it's done, along with everybody else on the team, or a lot of them. So that's a freelance life. If you lock in with a company, it depends on the company and what they do. If you like what they do, then you'll be happy to work with them for a long time or forever. Forever long they'll have you. But if you go with misconceptions, a lot of younger people want to work at Disney or Pixar, and they think they're going to get to come in and be creative and just create all these wonderful characters and do their own thing kind of within the company. And a lot of times they're just sat in front of a computer, given a piece of artwork and say, make that in 3D. And that's your day job. Or like, make this background in 3D. Make a fence, make some bushes, make a house, make a pool, whatever, make the background environment. That'll happen, because you don't get to be, you're not hired and then immediately hired to be the senior character artist. It doesn't happen. Not in the beginning. I mean, it'll come later for sure if you work hard and your work is great. And again, you're good with people and you're patient and you show up and you do the work. But again, that's left up to you to some degree, and also how much abuse, depending on where you're starting from, you're willing to take, right? And or how much enthusiasm and initiative you show. And just how much you show with authority, how much you work with authority. Like a lot of times how we carry ourselves and how you treat yourself mentally and how you present yourself to others, whether you have confidence or not, that helps you place in their mind your rank in the world, in life, like how they're going to treat you. So how you treat yourself, how you present yourself, how you think of yourself, it manifests out in how people receive you. And then that also creates an environment around you. Like how people address you is they're going to respect you if you respect yourself. I mean, and if they don't, then you should demand that from them, of course. That's the minimum anyone should give each other. But how you carry yourself is how people are going to often respond to you and how they're going to address you. So if you carry yourself with dignity, respect, likability, charm, grace, kindness, civility, hopefully you should be getting a lot of that back. And people also will give you that and respect you, treat you with dignity, talk to you like a regular person, look at you probably somebody as an authority, even if you're really good at what you do and you enjoy what you do and you enjoy who you are, so be comfortable in your skin. So all of those things kind of work together. So it's like, it's not just a clear cut, like, oh, to get in the industry, like do these kind of pieces and then put it in your portfolio and then send off an application and you're hired. It's like, it doesn't quite work that way. It can sort of, and if your work is amazing, but if you got to be learned to, people should try their best to be good with people and be sociable, likable, fun, positive. Doesn't mean you have to be the life of the party. I don't mean go to some extreme and be someone you're not, but to be comfortable in your own skin, it's a big thing. To be comfortable and confident in who you are, whether that's you're a more quiet person and reserved, that's fine. You can still convey a lot of energy, power, and respect. You can command a lot with being a very quiet person too. But it's more so about being comfortable with who you are. I think the biggest part about being good with people is being comfortable with who you are. But of course, to a degree, right? You're not gonna fart around people or burp around them or be awkward and cold to them either. You know what I mean? Be comfortable while still being normal, civilian, civil and sociable and friendly. So there's always those parameters, to kind of figure your way through life. So and I'm saying this as general and basic as I can because everyone's path is different. Everybody's path to success or whatever that looks like for them, and their pathway from starting as a basic artist to becoming someone that's a professional that's working on projects they're really proud to be a part of or want to be a part of, that it's not a linear line. It's not that straight path. It's like that cliche meme that people share all the time. It's like this squiggly line that goes everywhere, and then maybe you fall for a while. It's like stocks, right? You're going up for a while, and then it crashed, and then it comes up again, and then it's like, oh, what's happening? And then then it takes off eventually, maybe. That's life, and that's what happens with getting the job you want in the industry you want to be a part of, whether it's the arts or something else entirely. So much of the world is about who you know and being decent at what you want to do, right? Being at least good, if not great, at what you do. That's where all this kind of grows from in the end. That's where all this flows. So anyway, that's a really long answer to a question that I hear a lot. So hopefully this helps a lot of you out there if you're looking to get in the industry or you want to do something in the industry creatively. And this goes for like a lot of industries, though. This isn't just the arts. I mean, granted, other industries care probably a bit more about where you got your degree or what you maybe what you studied, in the past. A lot of places don't really, honestly. A college degree is often just a filtration system. It's just a way to weed out people who are a bit more ambitious than others, or a little bit more hardworking than others. To say that it makes someone more intelligent than someone else is really not accurate by any real stretch of the imagination, because I met a lot of people who have degrees that aren't very bright. Critical thinking is not quite there. But getting a college degree can often mean that you follow orders very well too, right? Take direction very well. But to really be someone who really stretches and pushes the envelope in certain areas, you have to think outside the box, as the cliche goes. So that'll often come from people who aren't just great at just taking orders and don't know what to do when they're not given, instructions. But it comes from people who are innovators, and innovators are often people who think outside the norm and question things and say, well, why aren't things done better? Why aren't they done this way? Have you tried this? People who create. They're people who are creative in some capacity. Those are the people who think outside the bounds and the barriers of normality a little bit. They're the ones who often move the shakers. They're the ones who change the world. So, you know, just being different is not a bad thing at all. Being different's great. And, you know, even the most successful people in the world have a very bizarre, have been known to have very bizarre personalities and attitudes. So it's like, you know, sometimes if you're just going after, you know, something that requires you to think differently and requires you to do a job, and it doesn't matter like exactly how awkward or unique you are, that can be irrelevant too, right? You know, it's the like savants are very much like that, right? They're socially very awkward, but their abilities are like their mind and how they focus on things and can just like extrapolate information or you know, recreate something from memory from like one look. It's bananas, you know, it's crazy. So there's always those fringe people in our world that are true geniuses or prodigies in some way, and they just blow our minds with what they're capable of. But anyway, sorry, I'm going off on Big Bunny Trail like I said I could. Sorry. Anyway, back to the glasses. So yeah, any other questions, let me know. Sorry, but that's like the very long answer to advice for getting in the industry, and I hope that helps Artsy Panda and anyone else out there who's who's watching this. Probably structural for the nose bridges. Yeah, how are you? Donut Games, what's going on? Great tips for someone just starting out with ZBrush. Is there a video or class that you would recommend? Yes, Sculpcy. Go to Pixologic's Z Classroom. Just Google that. Go to pixologic.com. Go to I think it's what is it? Instruction or it's very easy to find. Z Classroom. Find the Z Classroom. Go there, and there's a lot of or the YouTube channel for ZBrush. This channel, like, go down in YouTube and find their Ask ZBrush. If you look hashtag Ask ZBrush, there's a lot of like really specific, helpful, basic questions and answers that they'll give you that really will help you bring up speed in ZBrush. There's that. I mean, if you really want to pay for some courses, if you're a little bit more organized, if that helps you, learn a little better, quicker, go through Gnomon, the Gnomon School Visual Effects here in Hollywood. They have online the Gnomon workshops. They have amazing videos on ZBrush, and I have one on there for 3D printing, mastering 3D printing for the 3D artist. Requires you to know ZBrush though, so check them out. Udemy is a great site too that has a lot of informative videos and like Skillshare. That's a very popular site. I don't know if Skillshare has anything on ZBrush, but you know, or like back in the day it used to be Digital Tutors. Now it's Pluralsight, I think. Maybe they changed their name again, but I think it's called Pluralsight. They have a lot of information as well, I think, on ZBrush and whatnot. So there's a lot of places. YouTube has tons of information, but ZBrush's Pixologic's YouTube channel would be the place to go, I think, too, to find a lot of really helpful instructional videos that are very just succinct and straight to the point. Check them out. First Jurassic Park is looking great. Oh, still looking great. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, sorry, brain fart for a second. Really miss soft homage. Yeah, I always heard soft homage was like, it was the stuff, man. It was like awesome, and I never got to learn it. But I mean, yeah, soft homage did incredible things. Clearly, have a look. Yeah, exactly. Michael Popovich is great videos. Yeah, he's got so much helpful stuff. Yeah, brilliant, fast talking. Yep, great guy. Top man. Yep. Keep up the excellent work. Thanks for keeping me motivated in the Matrix. Come on, number 4, yeah. Pete O'Leary, you're welcome. CG history is always welcome. Why are you sculpting this? This can't be used in the game or project. Understand that it can't be used in a game or a project. It's going to be 3D printed. I'm not sure what you mean by it can't be used in a game or project. It's going to be 3D printed, so that's what it's used for. By the way, how do you pick the camera focal distance? In this sense, I guessed. I mean, I was guessing and got the approximate because I kind of reverse engineered guessing what they were using because I had the scan of his head. So I pushed the scan to a certain degree, placed it in a certain area that matched this photo. And then I turned on perspective, and then I started messing with the focal length. And so I wound up landing on 100 millimeters. 100 millimeters will compress the face a bit, but it won't be so much. I mean, this maybe could even be a little less than that. could have been 50 millimeters maybe, and it's just a little closer, you know, or a little further depending on the distance. But considering the shot and everything else, I'm like, so a good medium, I thought a good happy medium was 100 millimeter lens. So that's what I chose. So right down here it says focal length millimeters, 100 down here, which I think you can find in, is it Draw, I believe? Yeah, in Draw. So if you go into the menu Draw, come down here, you got your little camera icon, and right here you've got focal length. So that's how I wound up choosing this in this case, and it seems to be working out pretty well. So yeah, I was just guesstimating, really, just intelligent guessing, intelligent thinking, I guess, through the scenario of like I have the scan, so yeah, matching it with the photo, and then playing with focal lengths until the scan seemed to match really well with the shot, and also having the scan and matching my face then to that scan, and then again doing the same thing eventually helped me land on that sweet spot, which feels right, looks right. So if you want to find shots in films, start looking up. There's a lot more videos coming out about it now. Suddenly people are finally discovering it because someone did more concise shots of showing how the face looks when you're at like 18 millimeters, which is like fish-eyed, where the nose looks really big and your face looks really round, versus at like 50 millimeters, which is a bit more comfortable. It's a bit closer to like human eye. 35, 50, sort of like what they say the human eye is, sort of. But if you even look at yourself in the mirror, if you really try to pay attention to your face, you get close to the mirror and start pulling away and look at your ears. Notice where your ears start to get covered up because your face is coming closer, so it's taking up more of the field of your view, just like a ball, like the earth. You can't see on the other side after a certain, you know, line of sight, the horizon, right? So once the horizon has been pulled back from enough, you're going to be able to see the points of the very sides of the sphere. If you're really far back to a certain point, you'll be able to barely see both, almost the full sides of the spheres, just the tips. But if you get closer, those points are going to be overcome by the curvature, the spherical object in front of you. So if you're too close to the sphere, you're not going to see what's over on the sides here. But if you pull back far enough, you're just going to barely see the sides. Same thing with the eyes. The idea is the same with the ears. So if you're looking at your face, which is like an egg, it's like a ball, basically. You zoom in, you physically walk closer to the mirror, and look how your ears kind of disappear a little bit. Like you start seeing less of them. Then you pull back and pay attention to your ears. You see your ears will become more revealed. You do that a little bit quickly, back and forth, and you'll start to see the same effect that you do with a camera when you keep the camera around the same length, distance from your subject, and then you start going from 100 millimeters, or you're at like 18 millimeters, and then you have to back up to get the whole frame in view when you're 100, because it'll like tighten the whole shot up. So you walk back a bit, you're still going to see how the face is going to, what they call compressing, is right, because it looks round when you're really close, and it will look almost like things are shrinking a bit, kind of. And after a certain point, it will look unnatural because your eyes in the world, we don't really view people like that clearly, naturally. So if you have a really long lens and the person's looking straight on the camera, it's almost going to look like their face was almost like a two-dimensional like painting. It's going to look very like squared off, or just very like, you know, kind of flattens, it compresses the face. So I always like, personally, between, you know, like, I don't even like 35 that much. It's okay. I mean, but you could say between 35 to like 85 to 100. I think those are like really nice ranges. It's a pretty wide range. Maybe between like 50 and 85, I feel like the face looks the best and closer to the most natural. But it also depends on the distance of camera to the face, right? If you have a 35 millimeter lens and you're far distance, a good distance away from the face, it looks fine, looks great. You know, I mean, a good distance though, you know, but you know, it just depends too. It depends on the image and the what the mood is and what you're trying to communicate, you know, because having a really wide lens and a low angle can really make things look big and huge and make you feel like you're tiny. Then if you have like a really long lens, but you're in a confined space, it can make things feel a little bit more claustrophobic, and you're like really with the person and the character in the shot, in the moment. So it's all about context, and also utility, you know, like what makes sense within the volume of space that they're working in. That kind of helps you contextualize like maybe what lenses they used. So in this case, this is a very long corridor, so they could use a longer lens and just bring the camera back a bit so that, you know, they get the nice shot that they want. But in a room like my room, where it's not huge, you know, you wouldn't be able to use 100 millimeter lens and get much more than, like, you know what I mean, maybe from the head to chest, or, you know, around that. I don't know. I haven't really tried shooting myself here. Probably get a bit more, but it depends. You know what I mean. So anyway, that's just a very general overview on focal lengths and figuring out shots. We always took a printed checkerboard with a camera to match the lens distortion. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Good question. Yeah, that's exactly a great way to do it when you're looking at for that. Also, Photoshop, for instance, has some great presets. So if you know the camera and the lens that were used, it will actually help you eliminate lens distortion entirely or a lot. In which case, then that can really help. So if you know the camera and lens, and Photoshop happens to have the preset for it, if you took the photo, for instance, you can have that match, take away the lens distortion, so it'll like, stretch stuff out or compress things in the center. However, it has to do it so that it looks almost orthographic, basically. So you could do then be orthographic view, in ZBrush or wherever else, and that will work really well. My friend, you're a wise man. I feel like my older brother is giving me some precious advice. I hope it helps. Can you look at my art station? I think I have too much stuff. Noah. If you want to send me an email, Noah, sure, I can check it out. Not gonna look at it right now, but email for those who would like to know. Daniel at line-arts.com. Does anyone prefer pen displays for ZBrush? I think most people do. Gary, that's what I'm using right now. I'm using a stylus, my Cintiq. Does help a lot. Thank you. You're welcome, Artsy Panda. And Ryan Kingslink's courses. Yeah, that's where I started. What's your favorite model you've made? We'll have to see what you enjoyed the most. I guess it's like a love-hate relationship, but mostly love. It was painstaking. If you go to my site, go to line-arts.com. My Trico statue, I still love it. I still need to make more for the people I intended to give it to, which is the creator of The Last Guardian and Takeshi Furukawa, the composer, and my buddy Derek Espino, the sound designer. Still want to give it to him. It's so much work. It's so much work to even print and just put to. Yeah, and there's things I need to revise because I made the prototype and the prototype is not perfect, but it works, But yeah, that's one of the ones that took an insane amount of time because all the feathers, Trico's, this griffin creature is covered in feathers and all the wings are anatomically correct, like an eagle's wings, and all the feathers are like the ones that are accurate for flight. And so it's just like, oh my god, there's so much work. Each feather has all the little rivets. I had to create several types of feathers and then array them around the body. But that was a shit ton of work, just a lot of work. Couple years of work, literally. So on and off, but yeah, just constantly working on it, like in lunch breaks and between gigs, and forcing myself to kind of keep going with it when I felt too tired. And anyway, so it took a long time, but I'm glad it came together. It's a labor of love. I like my Raptors too. My Raptors are what I'm known for by a lot of people. I have some Raptors I need to ship out, actually. Some people in Germany ordered some. How much polygons is this character? You can see right here, I got the character selected, and so right now it's at 2 million. If I go the highest, I think it's like 8 or like 9. Yeah, it's like 9.3. So 9.3 million just for the head. Everything in here right now total 17 million. So there you go. But millions of polys, it just means high resolution in the end. It's just very detailed. You want to be around that at least, or a little higher when you want to do like pore detail, which I might do a little bit of pore detail on him today even. We'll see. What are we at? 318. Okay, sorry. Let me just finish up with chat and we'll get back to the sculpting in a second. Are pen tablets good for ZBrush or displays better? Displays are better because it's more like natural, intuitive. You're doing this, on the screen versus a disconnect where you're working on a tablet here, but you're looking up here. Some people like that though, because they say their hand gets in the way of what they're working on. I mean, I get it. Like you can just see a cursor then. You can also do that with this Cintiq if you want though. You just sort of hit a button, and like I hit a button now my cursor's on the screen and not on my Cintiq. So I'm using my Cintiq, but I can still do that here. But it's just, I think it was nicer to work on Cintiq because you're looking at what you're doing as if you were sketching on a pad. It's just like that, or sculpting in a sense. I mean, sculpture really would be more accurate if you were had gloves, or like I have the I recently got the Valve Index, and it detects all your fingers. So I think if they could create an app where you can actually use individual fingers to sculpt. You know what I mean? Instead of just like medium, where you're clicking a button and then it has like a point in 3D space that shoots out from your sort of like art gun, and then you use that to sculpt. That's a little bit more disconnected. I think if we could get to the point where you can use your fingers to really push clay around with a little bit more precision, of course, than the normal human fingers. Like you could do like human scale and then do like hyper scale, where it's like you're having like a scalpel in your hand, like an infinitely finite time. I mean, infinite sort of like tiny pointed scalpel, because that's what ZBrush lets you do. It's like ZBrush is really like sculpting in wax in zero gravity. That's basically what it's like, and with like infinitesimal detail. You can just zoom in and subdivide, and just get insane levels of detail. To a degree, of course, to a certain limit, because your computer can only handle so much before eventually it'll just stop, or the program won't be able to function. But you can do a lot of great work with ZBrush. Anyway, so yeah, so I would assume I would go for Cintiq always, but I started with a Intuos tablet myself, a pen display or a pen tablet that way. More specific question: what would be your approach / workflow to stylized fur? Given your resources like past stream, I can check. I would say look up fur alphas. There's some on Pixologic's resources page, and just look online for fur alphas and use those as some ways to do it. I mean, stylized fur, that's, you really almost have to use the rake brush, and do that. Sort of like what we have going on here in the hair, and then just bring it to tips. I know there's some pages out there I found a long time ago, but I don't know where they are anymore. But if you search for style, like how to stylize hair in ZBrush, you'll find a lot of stuff. Just Google that. There's a lot of stuff. Just look for good tutorials. A lot of them are written out actually with photos. And I'm sure there's some videos, but I found the best resources I found for understanding how to work hair. And it's not easy. Like, don't feel bad that it's challenging. It's hard for all of us. Like sculpting convincing hair and fur, it's challenging. Like if you look at my Trico statue, I use a lot of fur alphas, and even took pictures of my dog's own hair. It's my dog's fur. Brushed it a little bit, took a photo, put it in grayscale in Photoshop, so desaturate all the color, take it all out, and turn that into an alpha. So then it's like, whites are raised, blacks are depth, and everything in the middle is in the middle. So that's a way to create, strokes that look use real fur to create the displacement of the geometry, so it looks like real fur. But then you want to have a variety of those. You can't just use the same one, because then it just looks like a stamp, right? And a clone stamp just looks repetitive, and anyone's eye will pick that up quickly, and it'll look bad. So don't do that. Yeah, that's the best advice I can give on a short notice, because I'm not going to go on a whole run for that. But yeah, look that up. Google, good stylized hair. Ted K69, thanks, Tam. You're welcome. Sharhan MC, it's all in Russian. I'm sorry, I don't speak Russian. If anyone speaks Russian, let me know if that's an actual question, or if they can read Russian, or if that's spam, and then I'll just delete it. Let me know. Looking at now, wow, the level detail here is crazy. Thanks, man. How long did it take you to get where you are in sculpting? I mean, in terms of skill. And then Avram Lin, again, I don't speak Russian. I don't read Russian. If someone wants to translate that and let me know what that says, I will either answer or delete, block. All right, back to Mr. Reeves. Okay, how long did it take me to get here? When I started to now. Sorry, that's a lame answer. I mean, I was working professionally sculpting, not like helping, because I after my second course with ZBrush workshops, which was with Ryan Kingsling and William Detry, they hired me, thanks to William recommending me. They hired me to work with them after my second course with them, so I paid like around $2,000 or $4,000 altogether, I think, somewhere like that. And then I was hired, so then I was being paid to learn from masters like Paul Gabry of Pixologic, and Chris Costa, and Meets Myers, and a bunch of other really huge, awesome artists, and 3D engineers. So I was paid to sit at the feet of these masters and given free access to all of their videos and to learn. So I was always working for them full time, helping them with social media, and sort of being like the teacher's aide, you could say, right, in moderation for chats and for students. And so I was just very lucky. I worked very hard, but I would say I was still very lucky to been given that job and to just learn a lot from just the top people in the industry at the time. And they all are still some of the top people in the industry. And that really elevated my knowledge and my ambition very quickly. I was already very ambitious, but that really helped me become more informed, more educated formally in ZBrush. And that's where I was working with them for about a year and a half or so, I think. And then I started working with the Stan Winston School of Character Arts, Matt Winston, the son of the late, great Stan Winston, and helped them establish a curriculum for their online program. And it was our first program that I helped them launch was the curriculum for Don Lanning. Don Lanning is a phenomenal, well-known sculptor, traditional sculptor. So he was teaching kids and, well, people, I shouldn't say kids, but younger artists, all the basic techniques of sculpting. There's the power of the X. He would talk about that a lot. That's a catchphrase of his. It's just the power of hashing, really, and giving different skin textures. A lot like if you're thinking of like for a dinosaur or an elephant or leathery skin, that was a big thing with that. But anyway, I helped them with that, and again was at the foot of some of the masters and was giving them great access to all these incredible videos of all these masters in the industry of the physical practical effects industry. So ZBrush workshops is all digital, ZBrush mostly, of course, and then Stan Winston's stuff was all practical effects, and it was just great. But that also just helped me have work out here, right, in California, and was networking out here. I'd come out. So I was working by that point, though. So by the end of my about year or so working with ZBrush workshops, I was recommended by somebody just told, not like recommended to a job, to a company, but told to apply to this theater called Sight and Sound Theaters, which is this like very Christian, mega bigger than Broadway theater where they do biblical productions, like stage productions of stories from the Bible. And so the big show that I was on was Moses. And so they hired me to work on all these sets. So we would 3D model all these sets that were physically, like, we would CNC them. So it was carving with computers. They carve out giant blocks of foam, put like steel infrastructure, and then like use superheated liquid hot fiberglass. So it's how they make a lot of theme park rides. Have you ever ridden on a merry-go-round, or on a like the horses on the merry-go-round, or like on like teacup rides, that spin you around? Have you ever like knocked on them and hear this like weird semi-metallic kind of clunking sound? It sounds very hollow, but it's still a hard material that's like painted and smooth. That's fiberglass. It's been superheated liquid fiberglass that's sprayed, because it's really hot, of course, hence the term superheated. You're spraying this liquid, super hot fiberglass all over a surface of something until you coat it. And you can be a pretty thin coat, relatively. So then that'll harden, and you might have styrofoam as the structure that gave it its form. But once it's hardened and cooled, that's a really rigid material that can hold human weight, no problem. Usually, of course, you have steel infrastructure underneath too, some sort of internal skeleton, and that's what we did for all of our sets, so people could like run around in them and like do all kinds of stuff. Really cool, really crazy, like cutting edge stuff. And we did similar processes for but everything started in the computer. So everything we would design and sculpt in ZBrush and in Maya, and then we would 3D print everything at scale. So I learned all about 3D printing there very quickly. Then I bought my own 3D printers, started experimenting with all that stuff at home. So I was always constantly learning. Like I was still always challenging myself and saying, well, what can I do next? What can I do next? Like that's part of the name of the game, is learning to like learning, right? If you haven't learned to do that yet, you should. You should start to learn to enjoy learning more, right? That's just a great attribute to have for life, right? I think I learned that very easily. I had a more natural proclivity for that, though, since I was a kid. I was homeschooled for most of my life. Almost all of it, but not all of my education. For of course, like middle school, high school. Of course, I went to university after that. But I always enjoyed learning, and I was always asking why and how. Like those are always my questions as a kid. I loved science. I loved nature. I loved animals. I still love animals and nature and science, of course. I was a biology major in university before I studied medicine, and then after medicine, I dropped out my last year and a half as I double majored, and then I dropped out because I double majored in fine art. Was focused in visual communication, had no social life because I was just like studying medicine, working on cadavers, then going to work in the ER full time, and then working on my drawings, then going to these classes. So I had like no life, but I was just really I wanted purpose and meaning and significance in my life, and I also wanted fulfillment, right? Personal satisfaction. Purpose is a big deal for people. Who would have thought? So for me, I was looking for a lot of that in what I was doing, right? A lot of men, I think, in general, have that. Our culture cultivates that for a lot of men, right? We have this. Sorry, I'm talking with my hands and I'm looking at the camera to try to be a little bit more relatable. And not working on this guy. Our culture really, I think, inadvertently establishes that we men find a lot of purpose in what we do, right, in our jobs, and that's just, I think, it's just a very natural thing. Um, and so I think I was doing a lot of that with my interest in pursuing medicine, and uh, but I also was finding that I was very unhappy because um, I really I really wanted to have significance in working in medicine, but I wasn't finding that I was personally, mentally feeling healthy. I was getting kind of depressed and down, watching a lot of people suffer and a lot of stress. And there was some antagonism with some nurses that just, one or two doctors, mostly some of the nurses. I was like what they called a glorified clinical support representative, is what they called me. Or, like a kind of like glorified nurse's aide, but that sounds like more reductive, because I was trained to do like phlebotomy, which is drawing blood and all those cultures and whatnot. Catheterization, casting, and splinting, for broken bones, all that kind of stuff. Would help with like IVs and even a little bit of suturing. Of course, CPR, and then a whole trauma assistance. So it was just like you're in the trauma bay, like in the show ER and all those other Grey's Anatomy, whatever. You're with the doctors and the surgeons that come. Surgeons come down. We don't have like resident surgeons that just hang out in the ER waiting for someone to come in with a traumatic injury. They come down from OR, and then they start, if they have to, they'll operate there. But most of the time, there's enough time where they say, all right, let's stabilize them, we get them up to the OR, and then they do their whole surgery there. So it's not like the TV. It's not like what you see in movies and TV. It's not like, let's crack the ribs right here. Like, it doesn't usually happen. 99% of the time it doesn't happen. But cleaning out gunshot wounds, like stabbings. The worst was like seeing like, victims of drunk driving accidents. That's the ones that really piss me off, because it's all preventable. It's just some idiot getting behind the wheel. Don't drink and drive ever. um but that was rough. So anyway, that was affecting my mental health as a young person between the ages of 18 and 20. So when I was working there, it's a pretty impressionable age. But anyway, man, that's a big divergence from where we started. But anyway, so what was the question again? um Take me to get, oh, sorry. So, yeah, sorry. Wow, way off in divergent story, but this gives you background for those of you who don't really know me. um Left medicine, got into the arts. But that again, and people are like, whoa, medicine and science, like they are, science and the arts, they have nothing in common, medicine and art. Well, human anatomy, that's a really big one. There's a huge crossover there, and that's a super helpful part, because studying so much anatomy, that's probably why I think I don't like doing human characters unless they're characters I love. I mean, I'll do them no matter what. If I'm being paid to do it, I'll do it. It's a paycheck, and it's not really hard. It's not very laborious. It can be challenging for sure, but it is kind of laborious. Like, it's just kind of like busy work. It's like, I'll do it, no problem. It's a little challenging, but it's not like I'm never stressed out. Like, oh, I can't do this, or I don't know how I'm gonna do the anatomy. Like, no, I mean, I studied so much anatomy, and it's sort of like just like back in there. It's sort of stuck. You know what I mean? Like, it's like old education now. So I was lucky that I had all that formal education and like actually dissecting real dead people, and then of course working on living ones, or not living ones at times. But so that all really helped feed me and teach me. They gave me a good foundation for being good at human anatomy and understanding proportions and foreshortening and all the things. Taking some basic art courses really combined with anatomy knowledge, and then doing life drawing, lots of life drawing. So it's like naked models, male or female, old and young. I mean, young meaning like, of course, over 18, but you know what I mean? We'd have them come into the studio at the college and university, and then we draw them. And then even after I left university, I still go to life drawing classes now and then, just to keep my grit up, just to polish, just to keep that, motor memory, the muscle memory there, and just keep practicing. And it was actually even more fun when I know I didn't have to deliver something to a professor or for my peers to critique. It was just for pure pleasure and the joy of drawing somebody, and that challenge, the gamification, the challenge of replicating what your eyes see, to like, basically you're like a human photocopier is what you're really trying to do. It's like you're trying to do the best replication of what you see from your eyes through your hand onto a page. It's like your mental picture, right? Like you're regurgitating what you see out through your hand. And So anyway, so it took years. I mean, all that to say, I'm sorry, such a long explanation for how long did it take me to get where I'm at. I mean, professionally, I started learning ZBrush, I think at like 2012 or 2013, 2012. Yeah. So I started learning at 2012 and I was working by 2013 professionally, working at Sight and Sound then, about that time. And then 2014, I moved to LA and it was like March of 2014 and end of March. And so, yeah, I've been here about 8 years now. So, and once I landed here, it took a little time. It was like a reset. So it was like kind of a kick in the seat of the pants, but eventually landed on my feet. Had a good friend who let me live with him rent free for a while, which was amazing. He wasn't pushing me to do anything other than because he knew I was working hard to get a job, and looking and networking. And in between then, when I was working at Sight and Sound on the weekends, I used the money I was making there to take flights out here, stay with a few friends. I had friends of friends who were nice enough to let me stay with them on their couch. Did a little couch surfing for a short time and use the time I'd stay here with them to go to trade shows like SIGGRAPH or Comic Con or, and there I met people at Wacom and I showed them my work and we hit it off. And they were like, "Would you like to demo for us at New York Comic Con?" I was like, "Hell yeah." They saw my work I was doing at Sight and Sound. They're really impressed. And so then I would just demo some stuff, at New York Comic Con and then network more. And so it was all about just sort of using what abilities and friends and connections you have and finding how to get your foot in the door, right? And Comic-Con's a great place to network with people who are in the industry, of course. That's like a mecca for all that. A lot of people go because they're just fun nerds and they just love geeky culture and they just want to scream at their favorite actor or see a new trailer that's shown in Hall H or buy some cool useless plastic swag, some Funko Pop crap, or sorry, I'm just not a big fan of their stuff. Or like buy some T-shirts that are limited edition, or buy a bunch of prints or comics. Surprised, believe it or not, actual comic books. And just find exclusive swag and whatever. They go for the fun. But then there are, of course, many people who are professionals who are trying to be professionals who will go there and network. That's what I did. And, if you're lucky, you find somebody who, again, if you're likable and you're excellent at what you do, you find that opportunity there by looking for it, talking to different people, shaking the right hands, going to after parties where the professionals are. You maybe get invited to if you're working for a company like Wacom, if they're hiring you to demo or whatever, which they did with me. Then I got, their bracelet to go into like the sideshow after party, which was always great. That was always fun. You get to meet a lot of people who work in the industry there too, like people who know sideshow, people who know a lot of big heavy hitters will often have these really cool, fun, swanky little parties after Comic-Con on certain days. And it's always on a rooftop usually, and it's always catered. It's like open bar, and they have food, and you just come in and just dine and drink and laugh and maybe dance, and you get to meet some pretty heavy hitters there. I mean, I got to meet some really incredible people. I had met John Rosengrant before then, but I saw him there again with Shane Mahan and who else? Bunch of guys from Legacy, bunch of people from Sideshow, of course, and even some famous composers like Michael Giacchino. From, of course, he did Jurassic World soundtrack. He did, Super 8. He's done like whatever. He did so many things. Did he do Super 8? He did Super 8, right? Sorry, actually, I'm forgetting that. Anyway, what Mission Impossible 3? Incredibles soundtrack. I mean, come on. Mike, it was awesome meeting Michael. He's a really nice guy. It's on there twice, I think. Anyway, so it's like those are opportunities you want to take, and then that's where that it's like you get to a certain skill level, and you're always going to be learning more and more. But it's not only about the skill level, right? You can have a skill level where it's like you're good enough to get in the door, but you're still going to have to learn more because there's always going to be things you don't know until you're in a job. That's almost any job in any career, any field. That's why I say a lot of times like schooling is just like a filtration system to see if you can follow orders very well or you're teachable, right? You're someone who can learn, because that's a big part of course, any job is learning how they do certain things a certain way in that position, in that company. And then from there, it's all about just how well you work with others, how well you can keep up, right? You got to be able to keep pace with them, give them what they want according to the deadline they give you. So, it took me a few years to get to where I'm at in a sense, you know what I mean? Then I had a hard reset to adjust to LA and then ramp up again, kind of build up your tribe, right? Find your people, find your clan, find your friends, and then network more and make real friends. Like, don't just use people, of course. Like, always finding people you really connect with genuinely, who like you like them, and you want to see each other succeed, and working hard. So anyway, yeah. So I don't know. It took a few years. And I mean, it's like even then, it's like I had all this background of stuff too that led up to this. Like I was loving art since a child. I drew since I was a kid. My sister and I, my sister's older. We'd always sit in front of the TV and we'd watch Disney movies and then pause it, or like Don Bluth movies. Like I love Land Before Time, love dinosaurs. So we'd pause it and we try to draw what we see on the TV. Even then, we were doing basically life drawing. You know, like a mediocre, childish version of it, but still, you know, that was art and culture and music. My parents forced us to take like piano and violin when we were kids, and my sister became a music professor after that, and I was like, screw this. I like piano, I hated violin, and I chose to take classical guitar. Like I picked that up for like a year before I went to university. So the arts and culture and movies was just such a huge, deep part of my childhood and such a beloved part of my youth. Lucky to have two very loving parents who are still married and very supportive of everything I've worked toward. Not blindly. I mean, they're very intelligent. So they're also like cautiously critical and like, you know, critical thinkers about things. Like, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to drop out of medicine? You know, for arts, like where it's really insecure, like there's really no certainty. You know, like you know what you're doing. So there's a lot of that, for sure. And you know, so but thank God. I mean, I had this sense. There's a thing too. I was like, you can have if you have good intuition, that's a very important thing to not take for granted. What your gut feeling is about things. If you have a history of your gut feeling being right, then trust your gut. Like almost always trust your gut. I found that having good instincts, having good intuition, is both crucial and helpful in your professional career and can also save your life in other circumstances. So leaning on your instincts, leaning on your gut feelings, um, whether it's a positive, whether it's usually a net positive, it should be, but whether it's something that's to your detriment and you feel bad about something because your gut's telling like, that didn't go so well, you know, it's still teaching you something. So still don't take that for granted. Don't focus on the negative, even if your gut was telling you something negative and it turned out to be true. Learn from that, right? Grow from that. Don't let that bring you down. So again, learn to forgive yourself, learn to give yourself some grace, and learn that one failure or multiple failures and multiple rejections, whether it's professional or even in relationships, those don't define our life, and those don't define our worst mistakes or our most embarrassing choices. They do not define nor are permanent pieces of who we are. I mean, they're permanent history of us, I guess, but they don't plan the trajectory of your life, right? They're not plotting the future of you. If anything, they should be a good foundation that you build upon so that you don't do those things again, right? And you learn and so on. But no one person is going to be like your end all be all gateway to success. No one company is going to be that one company that's going to make you the star, make you great. Or it could, one eventually might be, maybe, you know, but you're the one who's in control of a lot of that, right? You're the one who's in control of a lot of what you produce, what you put out there, and what you learn from, right? So just always learn to forgive yourself, learn to be kinder to yourself in some ways, because I think a lot of artists, we all can grow to learn to be very um, self-deprecating and just sort of we can look down on our own work and become very critical of our own stuff and just become defeatists, right? Don't defeat yourself before you even tried. Like that's the other thing. Like always try. Like put yourself out there. Just go for it. If you fail, you fail. But guess what? Most people fail. Like everybody fails. It's like it's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about how many times you get back up. So attitudes, those cliches, but they're true. I mean, you've got to be a bit of a fighter against yourself. You got to fight against your negative proclivities, or if you have a insecurity about things, you got to fight against that. You got to push back and say, no, I can do this. Other people, maybe far less intelligent or far less gifted or far less kind, have done it, far less skilled. And if they've done it, I can do it, right? You got to be able to tell yourself that. Don't believe the lie or the projection that a lot of the world might want you to feel, which is that, oh, these people are on these huge pedestals that are high above you. There's no way you can attain what they've done. Like they're the best, or dude, you can be them. There's nothing really to say you can't, other than maybe yourself telling you that you can't do X, right? But you can achieve the same things other people have and go much further beyond them because you have their examples to learn from, right? For a while, I really felt like I had jumped into ZBrush too late. I felt like, I wish I would have learned this sooner. And in the end, I was like, no, I came in just right. I came in when I needed to, when I should have. And what, buddy? What's up? You sick of that? Come here. Come here. Take this off. There you go. All right, he's complaining about the cone. Sorry, my dog. He has the cone of shame on because he was scratching his ears a little bit. Hopefully he's chilled out now. Anyway, so yeah, I hope that all makes sense. Sorry, that's a really long answer again, but general life things for anyone who's trying to get in this industry or is trying to figure out where they want to go with everything. All right, what am I doing with the glasses here? So I want to adjust the temples and then I'll adjust the rest. So I'm gonna work on the shades quick. I still got to work on. I got to fix like his jaw, his maxilla, where his gums and the upper teeth are still a little too low. I got to like push that up a little bit, and I think I got to tighten in the corners of the mouth there because he's pulling them back. They pull them back inward a bit more, and that crease is a bit stronger. I think, just judging by the shadow. So that's got to be pushed in a little bit more consistently down here, and then I got to push that in a little bit. We've only got like 15-ish minutes left. I can go a little bit over, but I don't want to go too far because I know we got people after me. At 5, I think. So, 5 Pacific. So anyway, sorry. This is a long answer. Hopefully it helps people. When will I finish it? When it's done. Sooner than later. Do you think 3D scanning is going to affect job finding and sculpting for artists? No. I mean, it still gives us work, good basis, but no, I don't think it's good. It's just going to help us get better, really. You are the best. Love your works. How can I start ZBrush? Car World. Thank you. How can you start ZBrush? Buy ZBrush. Buy it and install it on your computer and start looking at videos. Start watching basic tutorials. Check out Z Classroom and this YouTube channel for Pixologic, and that'll get you started. And of course, for those who may not know, I have been teaching private lessons, doing one-on-one sessions with anybody who would like to learn ZBrush or would like to get better at a specific aspect of ZBrush. So if you want to do that, just send me an email and we can set up a session and, I'll give you either an hour or 2 hour, whatever it is, each one has its own rate. And, we can set up a weekly thing or bi-weekly, bi-monthly, whatever you want to do. It doesn't have to be regular. If you just want to meet once or twice randomly too, that's fine. But let me know. You can DM me on Instagram. This is my Instagram handle. For those of you who want to, and please give me a follow on Instagram if you like my work and the stuff I'm talking about. There you go. That's my Instagram handle. Send me a direct message there, or you can email me. For those, again, who may not have saw my email before, it's daniel@lion-arts.com. You may have heard this idea, but some people say that sculpting the living creatures is like competing with God. The question is philosophical, I know, but it would be really nice to get your thoughts on that. The idea, so you're saying sculpting the living creatures is like competing with God. Not sure. I mean, like, we're imitating creation, right? We're imitating what he's made. We're imitating what the earth has. I wouldn't say that there's no competition there. One's an all-powerful being that's created the universe. The other one's his creation, us. And the rest of reality. So, like, I don't think we're competing. I think we're just doing a nice little, very, by God to human standards, we're just doing a very childish, fun imitation of his work. Maybe a beautiful representation of his work. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure exactly. Yeah, it's a philosophical question, but I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with creating beautiful artwork. I think that's. I look at when people say that the classical description that we are made in God's image, that whole description of humanity. Of course, I subscribe to the existence of a God. I'm sure many of you are atheists or think you know the answer to everything, and that's fine. We can all disagree. But I believe there's a higher power for sure. I find it hard to believe that all of this is one giant accident. But to each their own. I'm not casting judgment. But in the idea of, the philosophical question, are we competing with God? No. I mean, I think, art is a signature of God. I look at it that way. I think he's the ultimate creator, right? He created everything, created reality, created time, created space, created matter. So all of reality and existence for us is creation for him. So I look at that as an amazing, an incredible feat, so to speak, right? For our human brains to even understand any of it, to grasp it. And so I think of us having a small, tiny piece of an element of God is being creative. I look at creativity as like the essence of a God, of the God. It's the ultimate touch, the ultimate signature of him is that we have a creative spark in us to recreate things that we see or to imagine, right? Imagination is another big thing. I think that's a great, beautiful stamp of God, right? Imagination, to imagine, to come up with something from seemingly nothing and then to try to manifest it in some way. You know, that's a beautiful echo of a creator. So that's my look on it. I'm not trying to preach to anybody. I'm not trying to say you have to believe what I believe. I know that there are people who hold many different perspectives, so don't think I'm trying to indoctrinate anybody or don't go crazy. Don't chill out if you're some sort of angry atheist, which I find a lot of atheists are for some reason. I mean, I get it. You know, I get it. They want to say that people who are religious or have a spiritual belief are ignorant or uneducated or whatever, delusional. I get it. I've heard it all. I know. A lot of people love Richard Dawkins and many other atheists out there, and they're allowed to. That's fine. I would just beg to disagree, beg to differ. But yeah, again, it's the beauty of the U.S. so far. Still, we still have some semblance of freedom of speech, and so we can agree to disagree, which is what I would hope people should do most of the time if they don't like what someone else says. Is just civilly agree to disagree, and that's fine. Leave it there. But anyway, so for that question, thanks for the question. I'm a big fan of philosophy and theology. Grew up in a very solid Christian home. Good parents, good thinkers, all university graduates. We're very well educated. Not, I would never consider myself religious either. That's the other thing. I'm not. I wouldn't call myself religious. I have spiritual beliefs. They happen to be of the Christian, general Protestant Christian perspective, but I won't claim to have all the answers either. I think there's a lot that humanity will never understand or fully know, and that's fine. And I don't think it's our place to really pass judgment on others who may not agree with our perspectives. It's more of our position just to love them and be kind to other people, and that's to me to live as Christ, right? Is to love others and to do the best we can, but also to be discerning and to seek wisdom and growth and personal growth and do unto others as do them do to you. You know, very basic good human principles. I think that would make the world a better place if we all would agree on that. You know, treat others as you'd like to be treated. That's my perspective, though. Again, I'm not trying to proselytize or convert anybody or anything, other than to share my take on it. So there you go. Pretty basic stuff, though. I think it's pretty good basic stuff that I think a lot of us could all benefit from sharing. So anyway, moving on. Wow, that Steve just got here. Mr. Wesley, hello, welcome. Neo resumes, epic. Thank you. Actual Christians, I know, equals nice online Christians. Pure insanity. Right? I'm not a bigot. I'm not out to judge people. I'm not anything else. Not a name, an ism, or an ist. I have friends of all walks of life, all beliefs, all everything. You know, this is LA. You can't run into people who are just like you. You're going to find people who are very different everywhere. And you'll find people like you too, of course. I mean, there's a little bit of everything here, for sure. Or a lot of everything here. Come here for the arts, stay for the awesome thinking. Mr. Wesley, thank you. Very kind. I did confession to a priest saying, I don't really feel like I believe in God. And he said, me too. Interesting. Well, that's a very human and honest answer. You know, I think the other thing too is humanity just really tries to box in the idea of a God, and we try to really. That's why I don't really call myself religious. Like I don't believe in religions. I don't really adhere to. I mean, I could call myself a general Protestant, right? But it's like I don't. It's very. This is kind of synergistic too, because I mean, Neo is the one, right? It's a very Christ-like figure. I believe in those aspects, those core tenets, those core ideas of Christianity, but I do not adhere to the Catholic Church whatsoever. And I don't really look to any one man, any like apologist or theologist or philosopher as like the guy to follow. I mean, look at Christ as a great example of how we should live. He also claimed to be the Son of God. So that either makes him crazy or it makes him the Son of God. One of two things. But he didn't claim to be a priest or a rabbi or anything. He didn't claim that. Right? He claimed to be God. So all that being said, I don't look to humanity, people, flawed all as we all are, imperfect, and fallible, which we see time and time again, especially in the Catholic Church. Man, whew, see a ton of that crap in there. So I don't look to any church or organization or one person or group of people as like, oh, I should follow them like a zombie. Like, no. Religion to me is kind of like mindless ritual and tradition, right? So I view that as not really moving forward and growing as so much as it seems to be kind of like um, kind of stale, kind of static, I guess, in a way, and limiting, right? And very limiting an idea of God too. So I think it's knowing that there's a lot of unknowables. I think is a wiser choice. Of course, there's parameters though too. It's like not everything is unknowable, and not everything is just up in the air for relativism, right? Because that's going down another path then where you become a humanist. You just think humanity is the pinnacle of everything, and we have all the answers, and we are the best of everything. When obviously we were not. We were made from someone else, somewhere else. We all can trace back the two people logically, right? Like that's how species work. And then where did those people come from? Where did those animals come from? Where did this planet come from? Like, so everything that we know in our reality has a beginning and an end. So that all had to begin from somewhere and something, right? So anyway, I don't want to get into debates though, because I'm sure people will disagree. And again, like I said before, you're welcome to disagree. I am not going to argue with people or antagonize anybody. I understand that we all will have different perspectives, and that's fine. Let me see here what I want to do. I'm trying to fix these lenses, and I think what I want to do is polygroup these together and then extrude them. All right, so add this a second. That's not right. All right, let's do this. Okay. And now, oh, derp. No, wrong one. Sorry, one sec. Come on, work with me. And that. All right, so now mask those. Those are unmasked. Okay, here we go. Okay, that's better. So I'm debating too how thick to make them and how close to his face I should bring them. Like I feel like I can come a little bit closer so I can make them a little bit thinner. But they still need to go into his face. That's gonna be the or do they? I don't know. It's gonna be the challenge. Excuse me. I was thinking I could extrude them all the way into his face, but then I just feel like it's gonna look weird. Like if it's doing this, again, they're gonna look like welders goggles, right? And it'll look great from the front, but from the side, it's gonna be like, why is he wearing welder's goggles? Huh, interesting challenge, since this will be 3D printed. Urgh. So that won't look right. Unless I get the whole thing closer. So let's see here. I mean, they are pretty close against his face, that's for sure. I mean, I think these are also still a little off too. I mean, just by proportion, so I should probably adjust those as well. So let me just solo this out quick. So if I just do this just to check, if I rotate and move, and we'll do a little bad zooming in. Pretty close, but not exact. So they'd have to be about this much bigger. and then they match pretty much. And even then, they're a little off down here. Let's see what they look just like that. Let's check this quick. And I'm sure I see that in my periphery, I see the chat going up, so I'll check in a second. I got some angry people. Hopefully not. Screw this guy, I'm leaving this stream. Talking about God and stuff. Sorry, I'm not trying to offend anybody. Shouldn't be offended by anything I said, though. Not trying to condemn anybody. Oof. What actually would happen with certain stuff if you're moving that fast. The one thing they should have done actually when he pulled back in the Matrix to like do his thing, but it's a movie and it's in the computers and probably stuck. If you're moving that fast, your hair would look like it's underwater. First of all, your hair would be like, you know, it wouldn't like move with your head like nothing. Just like I was thinking about this the other day when I watched the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League, which I thought was really good overall. I really liked it a lot compared to the original. Not perfect by any means, but a lot better, a lot better. And at the ending, wow, the Flash is an integral part of the ending for those who haven't seen it yet. I won't spoil it. But I was thinking about when they show him in the one scene where he saves the girl from the car wreck, her hair and his. If you're moving that fast, everything else still just like your clothes. When you're moving fast or wind's blowing against you, your clothes are being pressed in the opposite direction that resistance is being generated from. So physics, right? We're just about the visuals of physics. You would see the hair would almost look like you're underwater because it'd be moving. You're moving so fast that anything trailing from you, like if you're like it's the opposite. Like if you're standing still and wind is blowing really hard on you, your hair shows the wind movement, right? So the same thing here. If you're moving so fast, your hair would be like flopping around, and in slow motion, it would just look like underwater. It'd be a really sexy, cool, liquidy kind of look. So Neo jerking back, his hair's all brushed back, so his hair would have all flung forward, and his glasses would have been left practically in the exact place where his face was. So he would have been like, and the glasses would have stayed there and barely started falling by the time he hit the ground. So then when he hit the ground, the glasses probably would have hit the ground. So it's kind of interesting when you think about it. I didn't really even think of that until right now, and I'm like, because the glasses stuck in his face. I was just thinking, if you're moving that fast, like the Flash, things would be left behind, like many things. Anything you're wearing would be like I love how they destroyed his shoes, like in that moment when he saw the car accident about to happen. I love that detail they added, which was accurate. If you're moving that fast, anything that's not glued to your body, you know, truly like part of your skin would just be shredded or destroyed or like lit on fire because of the extreme friction happening between objects. So actually, his feet, his shoes and socks actually should have incinerated and disintegrated simultaneously. So they should have been almost turned to ash and lit up. So that would actually been really cool. It should have been fire, really, that just kicked off his feet, which would have been awesome. So almost you could say the same thing for Neo's movements in the Matrix. And if they were smart, they would do that in this next one. Any insanely fast movement should really just... I would get the agents wouldn't do that because they're just sort of cheating the entire time. So they would cheat the physics of the world, maybe, to a certain degree. But they're following rules too. So it's almost like there's a cheat and yet there's rules being broken. But it feels like, I mean, rules being followed and there's a cheat. So it would almost be like his glasses should have flown off or he should have pulled away from his glasses. But they do have the hooks around the ears. So there's that. Still, you're working back, and so they would have either been flung off his head, or they would have been, like I said, vaporized. They just would have like gone, just like burned up. His coat probably would have caught on fire too, which would have been awesome. I don't know. Anyway, sorry, just being a nerd about this stuff. But the physics of things would be really interesting if the Matrix, if they really were like the Matrix obeys physics really well. Basically, if you're moving that fast, you just burn off your clothes. You'd be running around naked. You'd be moving like, you know, or different parts. The highest areas of friction would be all burned and charred, you know, or something. It'd be interesting. It'd be very different. It wouldn't just be like this clean, sterile, cool, sexy world. It would be charred elements here and there. Ashes, random ashes here and there, and spontaneous combustion, basically. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be wild. Someone should do that. You know, like maybe the Corridor crew, those guys, they're here in LA. They should do that. They should do like what would the Matrix look like in real physics? Like what would happen if things were if you could move as fast as you could in the Matrix with a flash, but everything was like reactive to that level of friction. Things would just be incinerated left and right. Things would just be like burning up, exploding, disintegrating, splattered against things. I don't know. That'd be really funny actually to see a video like that where you actually see like what would the world look like if you could actually move this fast. A lot of things would be damaged. Insurance companies would not insure you. Yeah, you can move this fast. Yeah, you can't. We can't insure you. I'm sorry, that car can't be insured. Um, you're on your own. Um, anyway, random nerdy thoughts. All right, so let's solo this out. I'll get back to the chat in a momento. Hopefully, you guys aren't eating each other alive in there. You said what? Sorry. Okay, so we got some spam. Want to become famous? No, not really. If you want to become famous, your motivation's wrong. Your whole core motivation's wrong. Add to block list. If your goal for life is to become famous, your goal is a very shallow one. All right, wow, we had a lot of stuff come in chat I didn't see. People just can't respect each other's beliefs or way of thinking. Yeah, it's been a problem. It's been a problem forever, but it seems like it's getting worse lately. I was like, what? Priests just want that money. Please stop. Grant Wood's not happy. Don't want to fight about religious. Yeah. All right, Grant Wood, bye. Normally, I'm nominally Catholic, but yeah, it's not really. Yeah. Matrix is one of my favorite movies ever. I try to watch it at least once every year. Its meaning is way too deep. There's a lot of spiritual religion and a lot of stuff in that realm in it. Yep. My dad in his 60s, 660s, favorite movie is The Matrix. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of my favorites for sure. One of my top three. Sank. Thanks for defending, but I think Grant's already left. Matrix is not one of my faves. It is my fave. Oh, nice, Wesley. Awesome. Yeah, it's like number two for me. Yeah, it's Jurassic Park, The Matrix, Interstellar, Back to the Future, Indiana Jones. It's like I don't know, toss up Terminator 2, Aliens. You know, those are also my favorites. Something's wrong with my keyboard. Okay. All right, man with big, pure heart of the kind of heart the general human has. Oh, thanks, man. Gonna start running my own architectural project from next week. Bit nervous, but gotta do what I was trained for. Yeah, man. Every time I rewatch the trilogy, more details about philosophy and existentialism. Yeah. 1.25 million on the line. I'm thinking the worst that can happen is they fire me. Oh wow. Are these Ray-Bans? A good question. I'm not sure. Maybe. I never saw any branding for them though. Maybe they are. I thought Ray-Bans always had their distinct style. Like they were a little bit more squarish. Never been the biggest fan of Ray-Bans. They're okay. Like meh. They feel generic. Like they feel like the every kind of sunglass. You know. I was like Ray-Bans are fine, but they're like I always feel like they're super generic. Samsung extendable phone. Yeah. It's Nokia. Yeah, it was Nokia exactly though. It was the Nokia. Samsung made the second, I think, the reloaded phone though. I think, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe no, maybe it was Nokia again. I don't remember. Yeah, it was Nokia though. You're right. It was the Nokia 9110. Yep, the first one. Yeah. Subsequent movies was Samsung. Oh, okay. It was okay. I have to go revisit the movies. Paid a lot of money. Also, the phones actually had videos and gifs from the movie. Oh wow, that's awesome. Flash Speed Force physics is just nonsense because touching anything would shatter. Yep, unless He doesn't want it to shatter. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you'd have to move in a way that you would move with someone's body and help them. If you were to counteract someone, like even like the Matrix, when Neo catches Trinity, she's falling, you're having like a 90-degree hit, right? You're going one way and this 90 degrees of force coming the other opposite way. You'd have to descend with them. You'd have to create a parabolic arc. You'd have to come down and catch and then gently like do a reverse parabolic movement to catch them and not kill them, not just be like a bullet hitting them, because that's basically what would happen. You just break them in half or shatter everything on impact, you know. That'd be just a straight up, yeah. But yeah, I mean they're movies, so you know, whatever. Whatever works narratively. Going to the light speed, you want to be able to see anything. Yeah, exactly. Would have exploded the city probably. uh, Greetings from Venezuela. Hello. Rule of cool. Hey. Hello. 10 hours straight, he's a machine. Yeah. I know ZBrush. Show me. Yeah, that's great. Sparks. Virtual world, real world physics don't apply. Yeah, exactly. Did we Venezuela? Yes. How do you feel about NFTs? Don't think their movement is faster than speed of sound. Would be a really short film. Yeah, exactly. Sonic booms everywhere. Yeah, really. Big sonic booms everywhere. That'd be awesome. Lord of the Flies is in this chat. That's hilarious. Ray-Bans equal Apple, right? Yeah, it kind of feels that way. Apparently Ray-Bans were saved by Tom Cruise in Top Gun. Yeah, right. Hilarious. Aviators though. Are aviators Ray-Bans? I love aviators, but I feel like everybody makes aviators. Like I bought $15 aviators at Target. They look great, but it's like a very generic standard, you know, type of sunglass. Anyway, I am at 4:10, so I'm going to stop at like 4:20, I think. So another 10 minutes here, and I will be off because we got someone else at 5, I believe. And speaking of which, let me make sure. Hopefully I'm not over time already. I mean, for someone else. Where did I have that? Oh yeah, and I wanted to show you guys what you can do in Metahuman. It's pretty awesome. So let me see if I can refresh that. I'll close out with this because I just want to show you guys Metahuman. I said in the beginning of the stream, it's incredible. So I remade my boy from the Last Guardian short that I'm working on, and I like this version of the kid too, but I still want to go with the one I have. So I might do a Z-Wrap. So if I can export this out, excuse me, edit it in ZBrush to match the face, and then bring it back into Unreal and still keep the rig and everything intact, then I'm golden. And I think that might be it. Or I'll do like something in between, you know. But I'm reestablishing my connection here right now. Oops. Oh crap, I bumped Audition. So that's going to open up Adobe Audition quickly. Sorry, close that down. All right, so I'm just going to show you guys Metahuman because I was lucky to have early access. I'm not sure how many other people can. I know a bunch of people have gotten early access, but in case you haven't, or you're in a country or somewhere that hasn't gotten it, I'm going to show you what Metahuman's like in Unreal because I'm using Unreal for my short film and learning it slowly, painstakingly. All the basics I know, of course, how to import models and add textures and all this stuff, but I was trying to make it the adult version of him at one point because at first I thought we could only work with adults, but they have like a kid version. So this is like, so I'll show you guys too my my kid that I'm talking about in ZBrush here as well, so you guys see what I'm referring to. I'm gonna do a quick save. Oh yeah, the kid's right here too, actually, so that's perfect. So this is live. This is in real time in the browser. Like, how crazy is this? I mean, look at this. This is just, it's bananas. So they have this like standard animation that just plays for all the metahumans. That just sort of have these like basic facial expressions and like slight gestures and whatnot. Very lifelike. But let me just do want to add skin. It stops animation. So it kind of gives them a T-pose. It's kind of got a little bit of the Karen Wedge haircut, the famous Karen haircut. But that's the only hairstyle they had that's similar to the one that the kid has in The Last Guardian. So this is like a realistic version of the kid, sort of. Even try to give him the same colors, but he doesn't have any clothes options here. It's just like a sweater, a formal dress shirt, or like a sweatshirt. So, let me get back to ZBrush here. And so then my kid, unsolo everything. This is my boy character. Now, of course, things look different because he doesn't have materials assigned and the lighting's different. But still pretty detailed. Not final by any means, but close to final. And I used a real human scan to start with as an adult Asian woman's face, and then I reshaped it to be a young boy, which took a fair amount of work. Not done, but a nice amount of detail. And I'm sure if I took that model out of Unreal or out of Metahuman and brought it into ZBrush with textures, it would look pretty similar, as in flat, because it doesn't have that glow of the iridescence of the subsurface scattering. Sorry, brain fart. That you get with the materials they have in Unreal. But anyway, so here's my basic model for the kid. And now we look at Unreal. And it's just, tremendous differences. But it's just like, the materials help a lot. And there's a lot of other procedural things you can do. But yeah, I just find this, it's just incredible. Like what we can do right now. This is just absolutely bananas. What we can do in Engine now. This is going to be basically what games made in Unreal 5 are going to look like. Trying to get the two faces on screen at the same time. So, I mean, obviously this looks more real, for sure. But I think it's also materials and lighting that help it a lot. Hair was just placeholder as well in ZBrush. But, trying to have... The kid in the game has a very, like, Asian, Polynesian sort of look. But it's, he's probably slightly darker skin, maybe. Slightly. But I was trying to find that, mid-range. But anyway, it's just incredible what you can do in Metahuman. I mean, you can... and you can't export these models out from Metahuman and work with them in ZBrush. I've seen it done. I haven't done it yet myself, only because I'm still fresh to this. But just for instance, we can go in here and like edit the eyes. And the detail they say with the eyes, like the iris, right? So let's say I wanted the inner area of the eye to be more green. I just come over here. Or the outer eye, sorry, excuse me. I can come over here and then just up this. Where is it? So do color balance. It's subtle. I don't want to go too far because I don't want to like mess up what I did. But you can see like the different irises too. Let me expand this a little bit more. So you can change the iris shape, using these different alphas. It's amazing. Just all the variety. And then the limbus here is it's a ring around your iris, so you can make that disappear, or you can make it really strong. That's pretty awesome. You can iris size. So what am I at here? I'm at like 0.07. You can make it smaller, make it bigger. Of course, bigger irises, bigger eyes make things like children looking puppies and everything cuter. Bigger eyes and all that. So I'm going for the bigger iris. But yeah, just bananas. Just crazy levels of detail that you can do with this thing. It's skin tone. You can edit all that. Actually, let me get back to the eyes and make this a little bit more brown again. But yeah, just incredible. Absolutely awesome. I recorded myself making this in real time from where it started. So I'll show you where we started. How do I get back to my Metahumans? So let me get back to this. I'll show you where they have the base kid to start with, and he kind of looks like a mixed race child. He looks like someone's mother was black and his father was white or whatever, So when you want to create your standard metahuman, you come over here, say create metahuman. They give you this whole list of people to start off with as your basis. And so the kid that I started with is... Where is he? Right here. This guy. So just take a look at the face and the difference that we went through. And I did it in about 20 minutes. So I'm gonna edit it together really quickly and throw it up on my YouTube channel. I'll probably do that right after this, just so everyone can check it out. So like check in like in, I don't know, an hour or two or something, or maybe even just check tomorrow, whatever. But so my YouTube channel, by the way, for those who are interested. So YouTube channel, it's the same thing everywhere basically. Go to youtube.com/Daniel Lion Arts, and you can find my stuff there. Um, Miss traditional animations. Yeah, I like traditional animation too. Yeah. You can download. I'm not sure exactly. I think it would download as an FBX. I think, but you can edit it and then re-import it back. Apparently, you can bring it back into Unreal, and I think it still holds on to the rig and everything, so it's ready to go for animation in Unreal, which is incredible. So yeah, but this is where I started with this guy, and that's where then I got to this guy. So it's just incredible how much variety you can do with the face. Oh, sorry, I'm blocking. Oh, this whole time I forgot my camera was blocking that. But the kid and then this guy. So yeah, just amazing. I think the only thing they're really missing is there's not a lot of controls that haven't been implemented or enabled yet. But a lot of this will be enabled later. So this is all beta still, really. And the hair is something that's like pretty restrictive right now. So you can't do a lot. Like with hair, just like this. We have a rather, I mean, it's a large list, but not that large of, variety to choose from. You can change the color here, roughness, whether it's like really shiny, so we can go like super matte, crazy shiny, where it almost looks like plastic. Go mattish a little bit. But yeah, so then you can see here, like, this is what he would look like, I guess, if he was like, well, that's not the right one. It doesn't fit his race so much, but it's possible. There we go. So this is a bit more of like if he was just a modern kid, like an everyday kid, then he's really modernized. But it's like the hair alone kind of brings him into a more, and when it's a context, is trying to look like the Last Guardian kid. But I gave him the colors and the black black jeans, kind of like a modernized version of what the kid from the Last Guardian would look like if he was alive in 2021 in this reality. But yeah, it's awesome. It's an amazing tool, and it's going to be an amazing way for even ZBrush artists. If you're not wanting to animate in Unreal, I'm looking at Metahuman now as an amazing way to create an incredibly good base mesh to start with. So you can create your human character in Metahuman, get it to a certain point, and then export all that out and keep working on it in ZBrush to refine it and bring it even more realism. So this will shortcut a lot of human character work that normally would have taken a lot longer. This will ramp up like 75% of that work maybe for just the face and like setting up hair and whatnot. Even if you want to take it from here and just work on it in Maya, you know what I mean, and just go for a traditional studio visual effects pipeline. This is expediting a lot, and it's the quality is bananas. It's just so good. So anyway, I mean, like you can even see like the fibers in the clothes. You know what I'm talking? Like it's just great. Just awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. Just the details, nuts. You see how the rig's interacting, even the eyelids and how the eye moves and the eyelid adjusts to the cornea, the lens moving things around, and you can do things here like sculpt on the face though too. So you can take a lot of these points, and it's a rudimentary version of what you can do in ZBrush, but you can take these points and move them, move the ears around. I mean, you can do all kinds of things. Again, I don't want to mess up when I'm doing too much, but you can do anything with the nose. All kinds of things. You have different options for the eyebrows. You have different options for the eyelashes. That's always a challenge too, because kids can sometimes have really big, beautiful eyelashes, but you go a little too much, and then it starts to look more girly, and then you're like, is it a boy or a girl? I don't know. You have that androgynous kind of look, so I went for more short. But but you can get really long eyelashes. You can also move proportions this way. You can blend, shapes together. Anyway, eyelashes. So it's pretty bananas, man. It's amazing stuff. And I'm very excited to keep working with this and create other characters. But I felt like a good challenge for me would be to try to create a nice kid that looks like the kid from Last Guardian, sort of Polynesian and kind of Asian, sort of a mixture. And I feel like I got there. It's a very unique, realistic version of this kid. It's like I don't think either one. I think with these kind of textures applied to this guy, like I might actually bring the other idea I have is bring this guy into ZBrush and use ZWrap to make his face conform to this shape. So make this face look like this face structurally, but the textures and all materials and everything else will still be used from Unreal, so it'll have that same realism and even maybe the same skin texture, which is even more detailed than what he has here. It's very clean, very pure, almost too clean. And I could easily add more pore detail in ZBrush here as well, but it will be interesting. It'll be interesting to try this out. Because the thing is, if I can Z-wrap this guy to what I have in ZBrush, he'll look like this, but he'll be rigged already and ready to go in Unreal. So that's a huge, that just cuts out a middleman in a sense tremendously. Middleman meaning just more work in a sense, the rigging option, the rigging work. So anyway, awesome stuff. Go check out Metahuman. If you have the ability to get early access now, go do it. Check it out. Play with it. Become a Metahuman expert, I guess. That could be something else where you can use ZBrush and Metahuman together. There's going to be work available for this, man. This is going to be opening up. You got to look at this as it's a learning. There's some learning to it, but not much. And more so learning on Unreal, right? But that also means there's going to be huge job opportunities for this. So if you're a younger person or whatever age, but you're just trying to get into the industry and you're looking for a way to get in, and you want to learn a new skill that will actually make you very employable everywhere. I mean, huge studios all over the world, they're going to want people who know this. So that's why I'm learning it, right? It's not just for my own benefit of just my own, digital film work, but it's also for digital film work for the rest of the industry. So I feel comfortable in Unreal as far as bringing in assets and assigning all materials and textures and organizing things and placing them in environments and all that kind of stuff, or creating environments in Unreal. That's fine, but being able to learn this, to be able to create characters now that work in Unreal and that can be handed over to an animator, or I already did all my motion capture for this short. I got an Accent suit, the top of the line one from the company. They loaned it to me, and I did all my motion capture for the kid, running around like crazy and acting like a lunatic. I mean, I'd look like a lunatic to people who were watching me do this outside on the sidewalk or in a park. It was funny. I have behind the scenes footage I'll share after the film comes out. It's hilarious. But it's this is opening up a whole new gateway again. This is just shortcutting the process of creativity to enable more of just what you see and hear to be put out there, and not to have all these barriers between you and showing the world what you can imagine, what you can think of, and the stories you want to tell. So this is really exciting to me because that's where my heart is. That's where I really want to be. I want to make spectacular films, tell amazing stories, and blow people's minds, and have some intelligence and emotion behind it too. And of course, amazing visual effects, but that's always got to be the backseat. It's got to be a great story. Of course, that's always the thing. You got to create compelling, mind-blowing, beautiful narratives that touch and move people, because that's what I experienced as a child. I mean, I grew up with a lot of Spielberg. I love Spielberg and George Lucas, Indiana Jones and E.T., Jurassic Park, of course. I mean, that was more of a visual, feast altogether. I'm a dinosaur nerd, so that became my Mecca, my Bible, that became my religion, if you want to talk about things. Dinosaurs, man. I was obsessed with dinosaurs before, thanks to Phil Tippett and his amazing work on the show Dinosaur with Christopher Reeves doing the narration for it. We'd go to the public library, always pull out that VHS and take it out and play it on repeat. I'm sure I annoyed the hell out of my parents, but they helped me get it all the time. They were fine with it. But Phil Tippett's work with stop animation, stop motion puppets. He made amazing dinosaurs that looked really realistic, and they still look great today. Beautiful work. Really the pinnacle of stop motion animation. And that's how I got the job on Jurassic Park. So little did I know, the best dinosaurs I ever saw as a kid, the guy who made them reality was then hired to help make the motion of the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park be a reality, you know, and look great. So anyway, so that's all background stuff that led to this point where I was just influenced a lot by great storytellers and amazing, beautiful, like everything came together, right? Great story, great visuals, great music, John Williams, and that perfect mixture of the right elements together made just amazing films. And I feel like we don't see that many anymore. We really don't. And Marvel, they're fine. I mean, if you love superheroes, I guess that's your thing, right? Then you're in heaven right now, or have been. But for me, it was always more nature and science, and so dinosaurs was like huge. They always loved dinosaurs, and so then that mixture of that with cloning and learning about DNA as a kid, and that got me more interested in science and deeper into all that. And so it's like Michael Crichton was my man. You know, he was one of my my high priests of entertainment, along with a few other guys out there. So you know, Crichton and Spielberg and David Koepp as the screenwriter. Stan Winston and all his guys, you know, all those guys, all of those people they really influenced me. And I'm sort of a culmination of all those influences and what I'm doing now and where I'm going. So anyway, I'm just happy to share all this with you. I'm sorry, sort of like all it's a sort of mental verbal vomit coming out now at the end. But anyway, we're up almost 4:30, so I'm going to peace out here in about half hour overtime. Anyway, I hope this was helpful for you guys. I hope it was fun. I hope it had inspired some of you to keep going on your ZBrush journey, or to start it if you haven't. Also, jump into Metahuman. I think ZBrush and Metahuman are extremely complementary, and learning this will help you be more employable in many more places. So this is just the very beginning. This is the nascent, you know, precipice, the edge of the cliff. You guys are seeing just the beginning of things that will be full-time jobs for a lot of you, perhaps. So learn some of these tools. If you want work and you feel like I did when I was getting into ZBrush and I felt like I was a little late to it, which I wasn't, you might feel that way now with ZBrush, but this is sort of like they're feeding each other in some ways, right? They're giving each other work in a sense. You might think, oh, this is going to cut out jobs. Now this is going to create more jobs. So if you want a job in the industry and you want to leg up on other people, take the initiative and start learning Unreal and start learning Metahuman and learning how you can work with them together so that you can create more value in yourself, you know. So then employers are going to look at you and say, and they're going to look at their jobs, which they already are right now, and they're saying, we need people who know Unreal. We need people who are experts in Unreal, or at least can learn it and be good with it and be our Unreal guy or girl or person. So here you go, right? It's sort of like a reset. It's a little bit of it's a soft reset button now for people who want to get in the industry. You've got some really new stuff coming out. Just for me, as if I was learning ZBrush was still kind of fresh and new, and then 3D printing was like I was riding that wave, and I still am a little bit. Well, probably always 3D print stuff now forever. And you know, that's a huge staple too. Learning to master 3D printing so that you can create models or prints for companies that, you know, need to make toys or statues or props for films. Like that's another whole industry. So yeah, so just ZBrush though is like an extremely binding, you know, glue here. It's sort of the glue between all these different disciplines and jobs. So learning ZBrush and learning Unreal or learning 3D printing, yeah, they're all super useful and they all work together. So anyway, so there you go. Hit me up again if you guys want to learn anything. If you want a private session with me and you and just do some ZBrush or whatever you want to learn, you know, in ZBrush, let me know. And just send me a direct message on Instagram. Again, it's Daniel Lion Arts, all one word. And my website, lion-arts.com. Just hit me up any of those places and let me know if you guys want a session or whatever. Email again and IG. Anyway, thanks for sticking around. For all of you who have, yeah, take care, be well, stay safe, get outside, get some fresh air, get some sun, enjoy the outside. Take care. Bye.